Alright, I think now we're live. What's up, guys? My name is Eclepid, and oh shit. It's working now. Oops. So I'm streaming Remember11 here with the, Rook May City guys. It accidentally just pinged everybody in the, Discord. So, that's nice, right? Can you guys see everything? Is it streaming right? Remember? Oh, yeah, it is. I just unmuted myself for a second, and it looks like it's all working. So yeah. What's up? It looks like it's time to start Remember 11. So I've read Ever 17. I've also read the Zero Escape series. I've read Root Double. am in the process of reading Somnium Files. But yeah, decided, you know what? Why not read Remember 11? Because it's the one I've been most looking forward to, and I've been saving it. So I'm gonna repost that link here. For those that didn't get the memo before, I'm actually starting now. And this guy wanted me— oh, he left the server. I was gonna say he wanted me to tag him, but he left the server. I think. Oh, no. He didn't leave the server. He's still on here. Okay, well, anyways. I am going to now— yeah, it's working. Cool, Crow. Thanks. Yeah. Like, it's time for some Remember 11. And I'm really looking forward to this, yeah. So, once we have— it looks like we have quite a few people here. Let's get started. I'm excited. What? Is that Russian? Krylik? Ukraine? Oh.
これは世界初の女性宇宙飛行士ワレンチナ・テレシコワの言葉だ。旧ソ連の宇宙船ボストーク6号に乗り込んだ彼女は、一人完全な静寂と虚無に支配された宇宙空間を漂いながら。
And let me know how the volume is, by the way. I'm hoping it's okay.
その心もとない孤独感と、同時にすべての束縛から逃れたことによる解放感を一羽のカモメになぞらえて地球の管制官に送ったのだった。私はカモメ。素敵な表現だと思う。
I'm a seagull. What about when the seagulls cry?
私にはそんな気の利いた言い回しは思い浮かばない。少々の皮肉を込めて言い表すとするなら、さしずめ、私はカゴメとでも言ったところだろうか。
Why are we, getting— I'm getting Umineko parallels already, but I'm not gonna get into that. Anyways, let's continue.
狭いカゴの中に閉じ込められた一人の女の子。私は今、天国に一番近い場所にいる。
So, the person who's speaking— I'm guessing this isn't the protagonist, but— huh. Oh, it's a plane. Whoa, animation. Wow. Fancy.
33,000 フィートの空の上に。
33,000 feet up in the air. Coincidentally, the same height as Mount Everest. I don't know if that's intentional. January 11th, the first day. My ears. いついつでやる夜明けの晩につると亀が滑った Should I be listening to all of this? I don't know what that says. Oh. Okay. I don't know who's behind me. Suddenly the world around me disappears. Someone from the seat behind me has covered both my eyes with their hands. Some girl who can't shut up.
後ろの正面誰
I don't know. Who are you? Oh, choice already. Who, I wonder. And because I can. I'm gonna save here. I think I quick saved. We're gonna pull the. I don't know. We're gonna. Who, I wonder. What? I was not expecting that voice.
誰でしょう誰だろう誰だと思う
No one's traveling with me on this flight. I boarded this plane by myself. I don't have the slightest idea. Judging by the voice, which was still undergoing the changes of puberty, could only be the boy sitting in the seat behind me. The palms that covered my eyes were pretty small.
ダメだ降参
I raised both my arms and spun around my wrist
本
playfully.
当に降参しょうがないじゃあ教えてあげよう正解は
Heaven is here.
ユニくんでした
Turning around, as I found, as I had expected, a boy who looked to be about elementary school age. Is it bad I can't tell who's a boy and who's a girl from the voices? He was leaning over the headrest with an innocent smile. Kusara Yunikun is what he said. I didn't remember hearing the name anywhere, nor having ever seen his face.
そっかユニくんって言うんだかわいい名前だねありがとう友達にはユニシロとかユニットバスとかって言われてよくからかわれるけどね
His shyly smiling face was friendly and charming.
ねえお姉ちゃん隣行ってもいい
Eh?
空いてるんでしょ
Okay, so when I first heard both their voices, I thought this was a girl. Very confused nation.
おいで
I patted the seat by the window. The boy had introduced himself as Yuni pounced into the seat beside me as suddenly as a game of musical chairs where the music had stopped.
ねえ一つ気になったことがあるんだけど聞いてもいいかな
Sure, what's up?
何ユニくんさっきカゴメ歌の中で夜明けの晩にって歌ってたでしょ
Evening lit by the dawn. I assume we can
私の
click on
記憶
this?
が正しければ確かあそこの歌詞は月夜の晩にだったと思うんだけど
Are there tips? Yeah, there are tips. Even though the term is now used to mean night in general, originally it was used to describe the period of time between twilight and sunset. In other words, the time when night begins. What? I think I already knew that, but okay. Anyways.
月夜の晩そうだって夜明けのないじゃない明け方なのか夕方あるのお姉ちゃんが子供の頃はそうやって歌ってたの
Ah. Says there are dropped frames. Are you guys getting this okay? Is the recording going smoothly? The stream? Or is my internet taking a big crap? That is the question I must ask of you. If the stream is borked, I can fix it now. But if it's okay, we can continue here. I'm gonna go check to make sure it's okay. Stream okay, guys? A few cuts in voice here and there? Oh, okay. Alright, sweet. That's probably because I need to increase my mic sensitivity. I have my noise gate on. There we go. That should cause less cuts in the voices. Hopefully. I don't know who you are, so I don't know if I even sang this as a child. Evening lit by the dawn would just sound weird. Evening lit by the moonlight would seem right. I don't remember singing this as a child ever, though.
私、実はカゴメカゴメってやったことないんだ。もしかしたら記憶にないだけかもしれないけどね。ちっちゃい頃のことなんてよく覚えてないし。
Oh great, another amnesiac.
じゃあどうして月夜の晩だと思ったの？
ちょっとね。前に読んだ物語の中にそう書いてあったから。
でもあそこのところは夜明けの晩で合ってると思うよ。
Why so? I don't think that makes much sense. Yuni said so while picking at the clipped nails of one of his
だ
fingers.
ってすぐ後の歌詞には鶴と亀、後ろの正面っていうのがあるじゃん。夜明けと晩、鶴と亀、
Oh,
後ろと正面、どれも2つで一対になるものを表している。
okay.
光と影、陰と陽、オスとメス。この世界は二律背反する2つの要素がうまく重なり合って共存してるんだ。
So is this gonna be a big theme so far? Opposites? Seeming like it.
カゴメ歌の主題はまさにこれ。だから月夜の晩よりも夜明けの晩の方がふさわしいんだよ。
Okay, I get it. I can see it.
なるほどね。
But at the same time, it still sounds weird. I groaned without
とはい
noticing.
え、今僕の言った解釈が必ずしも正解とは言えない。あの歌にはまだまだいっぱい謎が残されてるからね。
謎？謎って？
そうだな。例えばそもそもカゴメとは何を意味しているのか、カゴの中の鳥が象徴するものとは一体何なのか、どうして鶴と亀は滑ってしまったのか、滑らなければならなかったのか、それから後ろの正面だれ。
Glasses. He covered his eyes with his own hands and turned around.
僕は今何も見えない。人間が五感によって外部から入手できる情報のうちおよそ8割は視覚に依存していると言われてるよね。
Correct.
つまり今の僕は身の回りで起きているさまざまな現象のうちの2割しか認識できないってこと。
But for people that are blind, that can't see, when those senses have been dimmed, and they don't have eyesight, the other senses gradually become heightened over time.
残りの8割は曖昧で完全としなくて、お姉ちゃんが僕の後ろで何をしてるのか、どんな表情をしてるのかもわからない。お姉ちゃんの存在は今僕にとっては不確定要素のうちの一つなんだ。後ろの正面は振り返って目を開くまで決まらない。
Just as Yuni was unable to see my reflection he had on his, I was only able to see his back. A small back.
君、いくつなの？
After a slight pause, I asked him that.
11。
Yuni turned around with his eyes still covered. Then he peered at me through his
よかっ
fingers.
た、そこにいてくれて。
His cheeks lift into a broad smile as he laughs. Are we gonna have a plane crash? I feel like this plane is going to crash. His smile was certainly that of an 11-year-old. What? Where are we? What the heck? Straining my ears, I could still hear the sound of the wind. Outside, the snow was still blowing violently about. I held my breath as I stood in front of an iron door. Beside the door, a small red light was blinking in the darkness. The card reader that controlled the lock on the door, the treacherous red light gave away its location. I put my hand in my pocket and pulled out a single key card. Satoru Yukido 1331-223-9801. The first is a palindrome, the second is 3 2s and a 3. 8, 9, 10. These numbers, I'm probably reading too much into them, but I can see some patterns in them. I trace the engraved letters with my fingertip.
ロンは20歳でしょ。
That's what he said right after I'd introduced myself. What is going on? What was that cutaway? Whatever's going to happen, I think this plane is going to crash. I had told him my name, Uyukawa Kokoro, and then had a little chat with him about the place of our destination. However, I hadn't given him any hints or clues that would help him to guess my age like that.
どうしてわかったの?
Let me see. Do we have a, Oh, just scroll up. Alright. I was trying to see if it was possible to access the backlog, and apparently it is. Cool.
すごい?
Maybe? Yuni threw his head back onto the seat and made a sound with his nose.
超能力かもね。
とぼけてないで教えてよ。
It's buffering a lot. Are you guys getting the stream okay?
教えてあげてもいいけど、その代わり一つだけ頼みたいことがあるんだ。
頼みたいこと？
僕キュンっていうのが苦手なの。キュンってするときあるでしょ。
は？
ああ、わかんないかな。着陸の時とかに急激に高度が下がってキュンって重力がなくなるときあるじゃん。
I can relate.
それで?
It's definitely buffering quite a bit. Alright, I guess... I don't think anything's wrong with my internet. Maybe something's weird going on with it. Usually fine. If it keeps buffering, just let me know.
だからね、この飛行機が着陸態勢に入ったら。
Looking at me with upturned eyes, Yuni continued.
繋いでってもらえないかな。
Consciously, I burst out laughing. However, the expression on Yuni's face was so serious that making fun of him just didn't seem right. Even though his words at times showed wisdom beyond his years, inside he was still a child.
そのぐらいならいくらでも。本当に？とはいえ、私の体に触れることができる男の子なんてめったにいないんだからね。
Oh, okay.
ありがたく思いなさいよ。
I'll be grateful. Well, I'm not him. I gave his head a little poke and he blushed as he jumped into my arms. Oh well.
正解は？年齢が分かった理由、教えてくれるんでしょ？
I'm psychic.
あ、
Bombshell about to be dropped? When he said that, Yuni let go of my sleeve and stretched his arm behind my head. What?
これだよこれ。
What?
これが心の髪の毛についてたから。
In his hand was a fluttering object which he presented to me. The object Yuni was holding between his fingers was... a small white feather as light and soft as down. How can you tell from a feather how old somebody is? Our section's small spiraling stairs continued higher and higher up. This is giving me root double / ever 17 nightmares. It felt as if I was walking up the scales of a giant constrictor snake which had wrapped itself around a huge column as it desperately tried to strangle it. Its iron scales made sharp cold sounds as my feet continued on their journey. Biblical references. I didn't think of the words coming out of my mouth as my own. It was as if some spirit was whispering them into my ear. The entrance I was looking for was near. Thankfully, this constrictor I was making my way up on didn't have a head. Perhaps before it could finally strangle its prey, its head was cut off. The cogwheels of the clock tower made an eerie noise. Rattle, rattle. It sounded as if a spell was being cast, one to take control over time for all eternity.
羽？
そう、羽。
これが私の髪の毛に？
うん、後ろのところにね。
I had no idea why a feather would be there.
ココロン、昨日お風呂入らなかったでしょ。
失礼ね。ちゃんと入ったわよ。
嘘だ。
どうしてそんなことで嘘つかなきゃなら。
だってココロンのまぶたちょっと腫れてるから。寝不足なんじゃないの？
Saying that, Yuni took out a mirror from his pocket and placed it right in front of my face. Oh. Ha! So, we can see what we look like. Just as Yuni said, my eyelids showed a slight tinge of red. It was true that I didn't get much sleep last night. Last night I was in a rush to prepare for this trip, and before I could meet her, I wanted to fill my head with as much information as possible. When I finally got to bed, the sky was already growing late.
確かにあんまり寝てないのは事実よ。だけどそれとこれとどういう関係があるの？羽と年齢の話は一体どうなっちゃったわけ？
まあまあまあ、焦らない。ちゃんと順を追って説明していくからね。
Okay, Holmes, do your worst. Yuni snapped the folding mirror shut and slipped it back into his pocket.
まず日付の確認からしておこう。
What's up? What's the date?
今日は西暦何年の何月何日何曜日だっけ？
So, I remember, when I read Uchikoshi and Nakazawa's, interviews they did for the 10-year anniversary of, or the 15-year anniversary of Ever 17. They mentioned that they would purposely throw in some references from previous games, rather it be Never 7 especially for like Ever 17, speaking of. They throw in Never 7 references to try to throw off fans of Never 7 that would be expecting things from Ever 17 that were from Never 7. And I feel like they're purposely, right now, they're just taunting people who read Ever 17 by right away giving us two things. I'm not gonna say what they are, because if you haven't read Ever 17, there might be spoilers, but they've given two things right now that in Ever 17 were pretty unknown to us, you know? But they've given them straight up right away here. So I guess they're ensuring us there's no trickery. Anyways.
2011年1月11日火曜日。
January 11th, 2011. Ugh. What the fuck? 111 111.
オッケー。じゃあ昨日は何の日だった？
11011. Is this binary? Is this like code or something?
1月10日月曜日。成人の日。
How am I supposed to know what coming of the age day is?
さてと、そこでこの羽の登場だ。
Okay. Yuni said as the feather danced on the palm of his
女
hand.
の子が振り袖を着るとき、肩にかけるショール。その素材の中でも最もポピュラーなのがフェザー。ホワイトグッズ、そしておそらくは僕の手のひらに乗っているこの羽も、あとは言わなくてもわかるよね。
Okay.
つまり私は昨日振り袖を着て成人式に出席したってこと？その時肩にかけてたショールの羽が取れて私の髪についた。
成人式といえば小学校や中学校で机を並べた旧友たちが一堂に会すビッグイベントでしょ。初恋の男の子が見違えるほどブサイクになってたり、あんまりパッとしなかった女の子が妬ましいぐらいに綺麗になってたりして、ともかくそんな開口が次から次へと訪れることによって出席者の誰もが心を弾ませ身を躍らせることになる。同様に当時の心も激しい高揚感に包まれていたであろうことは想像。そんな浮ついた恍惚状態の最中、式を終えたココロンはかつてつるんでいた仲良しグループに誘われるがまま二次会へと赴いた。
So, I gotta admit, I'm 20 as well, and if I met an 11-year-old that could talk like this, I'd make him my little brother. Except I've never met an 11-year-old that could actually speak like this. So...
だ 誰はばかることなく堂々とアルコールが飲める年齢ということもあったのだろう。2次会はやがて3次会となり、3次会は4次会へ、4次会は5次会へ。気がつけば東の空が明るくなっていた。結果ろくに眠ることもできず、まぶたは赤く腫れ上がり、シャワーを浴びる余裕もなく、ココロンは襟足に羽をつけたまま慌ててこの飛行機に飛び乗ったってわけ。どう？当たりでしょ。
Hearing all those statements in such quick succession left me feeling embarrassed long before I'd fully noticed it myself. Yuni's eyes were sparkling and his cheeks were flushed with red.
はあ、一枚の羽からよくそんな妄想が思いつくわね。
妄想？これは妄想なんかじゃないよ。極めて論理的な推理さ。
なるほど、自信満々だ。
まあね。
だけどその極めて論理的な推理ってやつ、残念ながら大外れだよ。
Get fucked.
だって私2月生まれだもん。
Ha!
成人式は去年やっちゃったんだ。
As soon as I said those words, Yuni's eyes opened wide, leaving two little dots where his cheerful saucer-like pupils had been before. His mouth was left half open in shock.
嘘。じゃあこの羽は？この羽は？
I have a pet goose and it took a nap on my head, okay?
この羽はなんで心の髪についてたの？さ
さあね。
さあねって。
あ、でもここは雲の上だし、もしかしたら天使の羽かもね。
天使。
Murmuring that in wonder, Yuni turned to look out the window. His husband's appearance resembled that of a live puppy that had just come face to face with a robot dog and was all the cuter for it. I couldn't help but giggle quietly to myself. My laughs reached Yuni's ears and his neck tensed up.
天使なんているわけないじゃん。
そうかな。
そうだよ。
まあ、いずれにせよガチョウの羽だって解釈するよりはロマンティックでしょ。
ココロンはロマンティックかどうかで事実を判断するの？
時にはね。
論理的な根拠なんてどうでもいいんだ。
だから時にはって言ったじゃない。論理的に証明できることだったらそれを信じるし、証明できないことだったら
ロマンティックな方を選ぶ。
そういうこと。
With a blank look on his face, Yuni gazed absent-mindedly at the feather in his palm. He was utterly still, as if his soul had gone somewhere else and left his body frozen in place.
ねえ、ココロン。この羽もらってもいい？
Oh, calling me Kokoro now. Uh-huh. His eyes were downcast, only his lips were moving.
いいけど、そんなものもらってどうするの？
記念にするんだ。
記念？
A memento of this plane ride when the plane crashes into the ground. When I asked that, Yuni raised his head.
そう。記念だよ。ココロンと出会ったことを忘れないようにするために。
Oh no, another amnesiac! It surprised me how he said those words so casually. It must have been his age. The brutal, straightforward frankness that the boys my age just don't possess, or rather that they gradually lose with age. Yuni still hasn't lost that gift. If Yuni had been 7 years older, that short exchange of words would have left me so embarrassed and flustered that I'd have to stand up from my seat to cool off. Because those simple words would have been so incredibly romantic. But right now, I simply chose to say,
もうかわいいな、こいつこいつ。
Without warning, I hugged Yuni and messed up his smooth hair with my hands.
苦しいよ。死ぬってばマジで言うから。メガネ折れっから割れっから助けて誰かスッチー。
Oh, shut up. Yuni struggled like a cute little woodland creature in my arms. The Alpha? And the Omega? Is that Greek for Omega? I think that's Omega. I know the other one's Alpha. There was a snowstorm outside. The snowstorm was so strong I had to lean with my hand against the wall to keep standing upright. I used my other hand to shield my eyes from the wind and the snow. It was freezing. I almost strained my eyes to try to stare across the distance. I couldn't see anything. The entire landscape before me had been whited out. A pure white world where all depth was lost. It snatched away my sense of perspective and I suddenly lost my footing and slipped. I clung to the wall with both hands to regain my balance. The clock tower was over 15 meters tall. Whoa. If I were to fall from that height, I'd be very lucky if I were able to get away with just a few broken bones. Holy, where are we? What is this? I glanced downward. My field of vision was filled with whirling plumes of snow and the needle-like tracks it left as it blew across the roof. Ugh, the words of cynicism I spouted out were quickly carried away with the wind. There in the freezing cold, I checked the time. I've never liked having anything attached to my arm, so my wristwatch was hidden away in my pocket. My eyes turned toward the panel of the digital watch. Alpha and Uwu. Huh, funny. It's almost 4 p.m. It's almost time for what? The plane to crash? I raised my eyes to the dark, restless sky. For an instant, a pale light cuts through the heavens. The sound of the winter thunder shook my body to its core. Was that a plane crash? The weather continued to worsen. There were no signs of the snowstorm easing up anytime soon. Or was that just thunder? Oh, the plane is about to crash. I knew it.
機長より乗客の皆様にお知らせいたします。当機はこれより乱気流の中を通過いたしますので、乗客の皆様は座席にお戻りになり、シートベルトをご着用ください。なお、この先多少機体の揺れることが予想されますが、飛行には影響ございませんので、どうかご安心ください。
Yuni neither noticed the seatbelt sign nor paid any attention to the captain's announcements. Rip immersed in play fighting with a plush polar bear. Bless you. Oh, that wasn't a sneeze. I fastened his seatbelt for him. Oh, now he's not gonna die. Even then, Yuni continued to play without paying any attention to me. Just want to comment, when I was 11 years old, I was not screaming with stuffed animals. I was doing that when I was 6 or 7. When I was 11, I was also not playing Sherlock Holmes. I was doing that when I was 17 or 18, reading Imminent. Anyways. I thought it'd be alright to leave him as he was. There was something I wanted to do before we landed. I took out a thick file from my bag. I fastened my own seatbelt and laid the file on my lap. The cover read... It read... What? Awazumi Municipal Hospital Indiscriminate Murder. Oh, fuck. Case file. I opened it to the first page. Are we a private detective or something? Wednesday, January 14th, 2009, so almost 2 years ago. This gruesome incident had taken place in the winter of 2009, 2 years ago. The scene of this tragedy was Awazumi Municipal Hospital in Hokkaido. It was a 300-bed facility, well known as the most reliable general hospital in that area. Time was 4 a.m. Powdery snow fluttered down from the pitch black night sky. Dawn was still a long way off, and the neighborhood was deserted and silent as death. Only the whispering of the falling snow, reverberating from somewhere far away, broke the perfect silence. The figure of a lone girl had appeared at the front gate of the city hospital. She was not holding an umbrella. The powdery snow fell softly into her shoulders and hair. She was as silent as the world around her. The non-duty nurse noticed the strange figure from the window of the third floor. The nurse thought there might have been an emergency and quickly rushed down to the main gate, but when she got there, her figure was nowhere to be seen. She and her. The hospital was sound asleep. There was no one groaning in agony, no one weeping in despair. Only the faint sounds of calm and tranquil sleep filled the cool hallways. A sharp shriek had violated the silence. That's when it all began. The only voices that could be heard therefore after were agonized dying screams. What? Then everything lapsed into silence again. It took the doctors and nurses several minutes to notice that something was wrong. The nurse call signs lit up one by one and an alarm sounded echoing throughout the hospital. The on-duty doctors split up and rushed to the sick rooms. Screams and cries echoed here and there, from room to room, from word to word, one after another. The patients rushed out of the rooms barefoot. They ran jumbled together, trying to escape, making incomprehensible sounds. A sobbing girl, a ranting and raving young man, an old woman who stood stock still, covered in blood. In the twinkling of an eye, the hospital fell into a state of panic resembling purgatory. We've had 2 biblical references so far. We've referenced angels, and now we're referencing purgatory. A lone doctor opened up the door to one of the hospital rooms. An incredible amount of fresh blood stained the walls and the linoleum floor crimson. What the fuck? That's crazy. The thin mist of spattered blood hung in the air. The sickening, persistent settled itself deep into his lungs. The doctor instinctively covered his mouth. 2 motionless lumps of flesh lay there, sprawled over the beds. One had its chest brutally torn open, the right half of the ribcage was sticking out from the body cavity, the heart was gone. He found it in the corner of the room, squished flat like a frog that had been run over by a truck. As if someone had hurled it at the wall in a fit of rage. The heart had left a vivid streak of bright red on the milky white wall as it slid its way down to the floor. Suddenly, someone grabbed the doctor's leg. It was another male patient. The patient's throat had been slashed open. The weak, rasping voice of air escaping from the wound could be heard. Shocked, the doctor knelt down and firmly covered the patient's neck with his hands. Those would be the last words he'd ever say. What, are we reading Fate Stay Night now? To this day, no one has yet to be able to determine what those words really meant. According to this report, the first murder occurred near the entrance to the emergency wards. The victim was a male security guard. He was most likely killed trying to detain the perpetrator who had invaded the hospital. Thereafter, the perpetrator went from one hospital room to the other, indiscriminately slaughtering patients along the way. The patients listed murdered even included an elementary student. Patients, however, were not the perpetrator's only victims. The doctors and nurses who had attempted capture were also stabbed. The final casualty count was 12 dead, 19 wounded. The final criminal act was committed 30 minutes after the first victim was murdered. The perpetrator was cornered by the police on the rooftop and arrested. The murder weapon was described as a large pair of industrial scissors. Was it that guy, our dude up at the clock tower, in the cold? To be precise, it was only half a pair of pinking shears. The perpetrator only used one of the blades to commit the murders. The other blade was never found, even though a thorough search carried out by the police at the hospital and the perpetrator's home. The motive for the crime remains unknown. While in custody, the perpetrator remained silent throughout the whole of the investigation, never responding to the questions of the police or public prosecutors. However, a single phrase alone was spoken, one which could be considered something of a clue. Right before her arrest, she... Oh, it's the same person, had murdered something as she dropped her blood-stained blade. What? Who am I? Where is self? This is going to be some philosophical mindfuck. Those were the details of the Awazumi Municipal Hospital indiscriminate murder case. Her name was Hinabushi Keiko. Her age at the time of the incident was 17. She was 19 now. Even though she was a minor, a crime so brutal would normally have resulted in a severe penalty, which she would have had no way of avoiding. However, her circumstances differed from the norm. In the end, she was found innocent? Oh, the final verdict of the Administration of Justice stated that Inabushi Keiko is suffering from DID, dissociative identity disorder. Okay, that is to say, multiple personalities. I'm somewhat familiar with this from Kara no Kyokai. If you want a really good movie series to watch, and or if you've already seen Fate Stay Night or read it, highly recommend Kara no Kyokai. It's really good. Penal Code Article 39. Those suffering from insanity will not be prosecuted. Those who are mentally handicapped will receive a lighter sentence. She's currently being held for observation at certain medical facility. Specified psychiatric hospital for isolation in Aegis. Spihia. Spuhia. Tips. Spia. Yes, I don't think I need to read this entire thing. This is long. Sagi's Island? This might be interesting. Located approximately 5 kilometers west of Reben Island, Sagi Island was uninhabited until the construction of Sphia. It possesses no airport, and the only way to get there is by a boat which departs from Wakanai Harbor on an irregular basis. Furthermore, entry to the island without government-issued permit is prohibited. R, the symbol for radius and ratio, represents an arc extension, the 18th letter of that. Also the R from the title of this game. It's full of significant meanings. Oh ha ha, yes. I got on this plane for the purpose of meeting her. What? Are we a detective? No matter how many times I read that file, it always makes me shiver inside. I guess if you choose to major in criminal psychology, it'd be necessary to accept the reality of what happened objectively and calmly. Yes, I bet she is a detective. But the emotions that were burning within my chest weren't something I could easily suppress. Without any hesitation, the girl had killed many innocent people. It was unimaginable. She'd even taken the lives of innocent children who had never harmed a single soul. No matter how crazy she was, I just couldn't bring myself to forgive her for what she had done. To be honest, I was filled with an intense hatred for Inabushi Keiko. The elementary school student murdered back then was just 9 years old. If he were alive, he'd be right around Yuni's age now. That thought made my chest tighten as I watched Yuni play on innocently. In the corner of the room, engulfed in darkness, a young girl sat on the floor hugging her knees. Her tiny back trembled ever so slightly. She was sobbing quietly. The young boy put his hand on her shoulder. She glanced up at the boy with her tear-filled eyes and flung herself into his arms, embracing him tightly as if he'd disappear the moment she let go. She kept crying as she held on to him with all her strength. The boy gently ran his fingers through her hair. "It's okay," he whispered softly into her ear. "There's nothing to be afraid of, because no matter what happens, I'll be here to protect you." The words left her trembling lips as she nervously shook her head. "Still, I will protect you forever, you'll see." Her slender fingers dug deep into the boy's back. Ah! Fuck. Abruptly, there was an unexpected noise and the inside of the plane lost gravity. Yep, plane crash time. The file on my lap slowly floated into the air before me, pages fluttering as if to take off, and then fell from midair with a thud as though tired and gasping for air. But before it could recover, the file crashed abruptly to my feet. The plane felt like it was drifting on ice. As soon as that thought crossed my mind, the plane was once again pulled down with frightening strength, as if it wanted to take us down into the bowels of the earth. Screams could be heard from every direction whenever the cabin shook. And mingled with the screams, an undercurrent of fear saturated the air. All down. Yuni clung tightly to my chest. I placed an arm around his shoulder and tried to calm him down.
2001年間に国内で発生した交通事故による死亡者の数って知ってる？ざっと1万人前後。地震、台風、落雷、雪崩、その他の自然災害によって不運にも命を落とした人の数は128人。
And how is that supposed to calm him down?
水難事故による死者の数は毎年1000人以上。殺人事件の発生件数は平均して年間1250件にも上る。それに対して航空機の墜落事故発生率はというと 0.0001%。 これが何を意味するのかユニくんわかる？つまり地上にいるよりもむしろ空中にいた方が安全だってこと。どう？安心したでしょ？
Yuni didn't reply. He simply buried his face in my chest as he trembled all over. I don't think that would calm him down. The bell on the clock tower echoed solemnly. I checked my wristwatch. Just about 4 o'clock. The clock tower told me the time, not a minute of deviation. A metallic sound that was like the coarse voice of an aged man alerted me of the hour at hand. The snow danced violently to the sound of the bell as the raging wind stirred it. Though what I saw were twinkling and sparkling particles of light. An infinite number of angels dancing and rejoicing at the advent of a great gospel.
待ってろよ。もうすぐだ。もうすぐ。お前に。
A bolt of lightning streaked across the ominous sky. The sound of the holy bell was denied by a roar filled with rage. The thunder continued resounding in succession 2 times, 3 times, and the earth shook in unison each time, letting out a hateful groan. The flashes of light illuminated the sky with pale light. Then, a shadow that I couldn't miss appeared in the light. The shadow came up from behind me and stretched toward my feet.
誰だ?
The plane. Crashing. The cabin of the plane pitched violently back and forth as if giant waves were making a sport of a small boat. The passengers, powerless to do anything, let out pitiful screams. In the midst of it were voices crying, voices screaming, voices praying. I looked out the window. I wondered when we had fallen to our current altitude. The world outside had turned a muddled gray. The tips of the airplane's wings went beyond the fog, covering my field of vision. The wings were now bending inward like a huge bow might, looking as if they could break off any second. I quickly pulled Yuni off me. I pushed him into the seat and tightened his seatbelt with all my strength.
もしも何かあったらこうやってダンゴムシみたいに丸くなるのよ。もしもってどういうこと？この飛行機落ちちゃうの？大丈夫よ。大丈夫だけど念のため。やだ怖いよ。心
Yuni clung tightly to me once more. I forcefully pulled his shoulders back against the seat and tried to calm him down again.
ユニくん、お願いだからお姉ちゃんの言うこと聞いて。ちゃんと自分の席に座ってるの。わかった？どうして？なんでダメなの？心、どっか行っちゃうの？僕を置いてかないで。一人ぼっちにしないで。どこにも行ったりしないわよ。降ろしてくれって頼んでも無駄だろうしね。でも、ほら、男の子でしょ？そんな泣きそうな顔するんじゃないの。約束通り。ちゃんと手繋いでてあげるから。
I firmly clutched Yuni's hand. Large teardrops tumbled from Yuni's watery eyes. For an instant, a flash of lightning rushed through the sky outside the window. A thunderous snapping, crunching roar followed. I reflexively turned my eyes downward. The file was at my feet. The white page before my eyes was illuminated by the lightning. As forcefully as I could. There was the faint shadow of a person in front of the door. However, the fierce wind and the dancing snow prevented me from seeing who it was. Even the silhouette was impossible to make out through the thick white curtain of snow. I called out once again. The shadow gave no answer. It was slowly moving closer. Feelings of fear and distress began to grow inside of me. I was backed up into a corner of the roof by the mysterious shadow as it drew slowly nearer and nearer. The shadow didn't stop. Lightning bolts glittered in the distance like flames. The well-honed blade struck the earth. A silhouette could be made out in the backlight. In that instant, I finally figured out what that shadow really was. Yep. That's what I was thinking about the prologue. We're switching back and forth between protagonists and... But... It's weird. It's kind of giving me Ace Attorney vibes, too. But yeah. Except the protagonist switch is very jarring this time, because I couldn't even figure if we're in the same timeline or what. I still can't figure it out. Oh, reeling from the greatest shock yet, the airplane sunk rapidly. By now it was clear the crew had no control over the plane. The small craft lost its balance completely, writhing and twisting like a snake. The lights had died, darkness was all around, the sounds of shrieks and screams stabbed at my ears. The maddened passenger began screaming. A strong jet of air could be felt blowing in from somewhere. The scent of oil penetrated my nose. And the next moment... Oh, fuck. Before I noticed, I was dancing in the air, released from all restraints. Time stops. The snowstorm stops. And I am swallowed by the pure particles of... The sound of the bell still reverberates in the air, as if it was reciting the beginning of a solemn ritual, divinely, gently, ever so softly. I start to dissolve within the light. On, as if it were slowly being peeled away, my consciousness departs me. A deep sleep I came to know long ago. My existence, I am now here. An explosion roared from a rift in the port side. In an instant, the aircraft was engulfed by raging flames. An ivory-colored mask fell from the ceiling, slowly swinging back and forth like the lifeless body of a convict who had just been executed. This might be the end. I tried to accept my coming fate. However, in my right hand there was a small palm, strongly, desperately calling for me. Even if it's only him that survives, I have to protect him. I won't let this warmth disappear from the world. I rapidly pulled the oxygen mask over Yuni's face and forcefully pushed his head down to his knees. Our altitude continued to drop. The airplane struggled violently in a last-ditch effort at resistance. By now the flames had reached the inside of the cabin, and sadistically licking the ceiling, drew ever closer to our heads. I held Yuni's hand tightly. Fuck, 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 fuck! So I went to go get a drink of water between that, because I was told not to, watch the prologue. Or, not the prologue, the opening. Apparently it had spoilers. So yeah. We're now back. I slowly opened my eyes. An unfamiliar ceiling. The scent of a freshly washed pillowcase. Everything around me seemed different from the norm. It was a bizarre feeling like I had never experienced before, a feeling that something was wrong, but I just couldn't tell what. Where am I? Who am I? I turned my head and looked around. Some sort of room. A bed beneath my body. That's all I could figure out. Everything remained a mystery to me. I gathered all my strength and tried to get up from the bed I was lying on. So somehow we're still alive. Intense pain immediately shot through my body. I couldn't even understand where this pain was coming from. Every joint in my body, my muscles, my insides, all of them are crying out in excruciating pain. I writhed in agony. The door opened and a woman rushed into the room. She knelt down and gently helped me back into the bed. Enduring the pain coursing through my body, I took a closer look at the woman's face. She frowned as a confused look appeared on her face. Oh no. I took a good long look at the woman. Brown skin with ash brown eyes. Her features didn't give you the impression that she was a typical Japanese person. Maybe she was half Japanese? Are we in purgatory? In any case, I can definitely say that I haven't met her before. Falling? A shiver ran down my spine as that word left her mouth. The buried memories surfaced one by one as a myriad of images ripped through my mind. The plane filled with agonizing screams, the terrible explosion, the scorching crimson flames, the thick black smoke, and that tiny palm I held in my right hand. The palm pleading desperately for my help. I bet she's going to say, "What boy?" I threw off the blanket and jumped from the bed, but the next moment, a scorching pain once again ran through my body, draining any remaining strength it had left. And once again I collapsed back onto the bed. That look of hers, filled with love and affection, reminded me of the Virgin Mary. A gentle smile, so kind, so beautiful. A smile so charming it even made me slightly jealous of her. She carefully tucked me back into bed. Amazingly, when the palm of her hand touched my neck, the pain and anxiety... Yup. And you know what would be even crazier? If she said, "What plane?" When I said that, her expression suddenly changed. Was he the 9-year-old kid that was murdered? Was he the 9-year-old kid that was murdered? Oh no. I'm not plotting anything! Plotting you people. I couldn't understand what she was saying. When our eyes met again, her expression had become cold and stiff as she stared at me sharply. Shut the fuck up, woman. There was no longer any trace of that Mary-like countenance to be seen anywhere on her face. Is it mystery, Nick? Which are you talking about, this or Ever 17? This seems like it's mystery. Ever 17 is also kind of mystery. I don't know why I'm here. Well, actually, I do know why I'm here. I'm here to, investigate and interview the, the crazy girl who had dissociative identity disorder. I did not plan to crash in a plane, though. Why am I here? That's what I'd like to know. But who am I? Well, at least that's one question I can probably answer. I was intimidated by her coercive attitude, but I was able to lift my body and start talking to her. She's gonna say what plane. Before I could finish, a strong slap flew across my cheek. The woman's voice had become hoarse. Shut the fuck up! I don't know what you're... Yeah, and by the way, Nick, yes, I'm assuming this is mystery, because Ever 17 was mystery, and this feels like mystery. Because I have absolutely no idea what's going on, but I think this is mystery. Her fingers and hands shook as if anger that filled her to the brim had finally boiled over. I was dumbfounded with no idea as to what was going on. Yes, don't slap me. Just what had struck a nerve with her? Was she hurt by something I said? No! I don't know what's going on! Tell me! What are you talking about? Who are you? Oh dear God. I boldly opened my mouth. I'm not planning anything. She declared firmly, face distorted in agony. Tears of desperation welling in her beautiful ash-brown eyes. Ah. Fuyukawa Kokoro. Probably. She's about to say Fuyukawa Kokoro died a few years ago, or something. Yep! Yep!
この後に及んでまだとぼけるつもり。冬川心という女の子はもうこの世界には存在しないの。彼女は死んだのよ。もちろんあなたもそのことを知ってるはず。そうで、そんな。
Dead? What did she mean by dead? I was right here, wasn't I? I was still alive right here, right now, wasn't I? I was pretty certain I was still alive. But why would she make up a lie like that? Yes, a lie, she must have been lying. No, she wasn't lying. But even as I thought that, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fight off the chill creeping up my back. I couldn't find a single word to say. My mind would completely blank.
とにかくあなたが何を企んでるのかまだわからないけど、どうせ騙すんならもっとうまくやってほしかったわ。
I don't know what's going on. Leaving me with a look of disdain, the woman walked toward the door.
それから一つだけ言っておくけど。
What? She stopped at the door, then turned around and continued.
今さら計画を取りやめるつもりはないから。
I don't know what your plan is. I don't know who I...
邪魔しないで。
In those quiet words she left behind, amongst other things, I could feel a distinct sense of sadness. The fuck is going on? The closed-off structure. After the woman left the room, I became lost in my thoughts. There were a lot of things I wanted to think through. However, I didn't know where to start, and I definitely didn't have enough information to make sense of it all. I don't know anything yet. Where am I? Is Yuni safe? Who is that woman? If I ever wanted to find out, I couldn't just stay here, alone with my thoughts. I dragged my injured body out the room. The scene in front of my eyes was quite surprising. A modern dining table and a set of rather uncomfortable-looking chairs. Looking down, I noticed an induction cooker and a deep sink. Deciding to explore further, I enter a sizable open-plan living area. A sofa of clean, simple design stood in the center, and a huge plasma screen took up the wall. A spacious room with a high ceiling and window. At first, it gave off an air of freedom. Its straight, sharp lines, however, make you feel a sense of tension and strain there. There are no signs of life in this living area, nor is there any warmth. I'd expect to see hospital trolleys everywhere, but it seems I was mistaken. Now that I think about it, I hadn't seen any medical equipment since I stepped out of the room I woke up in. This place isn't a hospital. But if it isn't a hospital, what is it? Facility? Facility for what? I was becoming more curious by the moment. I wandered around the room aimlessly and there was a window in the kitchen. The window spanned the length of the wall, from the floor to the ceiling. Beyond the window spread a darkness darker than black. Occasionally, sparkling lights could be seen floating downward, most likely snow. There wasn't much more to be seen from that window except for the reflection of the room I was in. Something resembling a computer stood on a desk near the divider between the living room and the kitchen floor. I say something resembling a computer because there was no actual computer anywhere to be seen. A monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse are all that stands on the slick white disc. The cables from the equipment made their way under the flooring. There's a huge door for a front entrance and 4 other, more plain-looking doors. In the door of the kitchen, there's also a staircase with a handrail leading somewhere downward. Okay. I see. It's an interesting looking lodge type thing. After walking out around the room on my wobbly legs, I tried to make a floor plan in my mind. Although, with that said, this image is most likely far from perfect. That woman I saw before seems to have disappeared. My joints produce sharp bursts of pain whenever I move, but I don't feel like returning to the room I woke up in. I decided to. Let's not try leaving first. Let's try leaving first. I don't think we'll be able to. I went to see if I could go out through the main entrance. The door didn't have a knob of any sort or handle attached to it. It must be an automatic door, but a very peculiar one, unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's made of some sort of metal, but that's about all I can make out of it. I wonder how thick of it is. It seems to be so sturdy that a shell shot from a tank would have little chance of taking it down. I stood in front of the door. Oh, I can open it. What the fuck? What spread out in front of me when it opened was an image of hell in black and white. In the whirling plumes of snow, countless snowflakes were madly racing past each other. As I thought, the sparkling particles of light I had seen through the window earlier were indeed crystals of snow. I had no idea that it was coming down this hard. All that was reflected in my eyes were the countless white particles and the darkness between them. It was already impossible to see anything more than a few meters away. A harsh, freezing wind felt as though it would blow through me. My cheeks and neck felt as though they were being cut by the countless shards of glass. It became impossible to breathe. The chilly air was so intense that I could feel my lungs and trachea choking on it as it made its way through them. I felt that if I stayed here for even 3 seconds more, I would surely die. I'm pretty sure that wasn't even an exaggeration. Panic-stricken, I turned and started back toward the building. It was nice and warm inside. This was the kind of warmth that a human could survive in. I breathed a sigh of relief. The thundering roar of the wind was so loud it could be clearly heard even indoors. I hadn't noticed the sound of it until now, but that's probably because my mind had been preoccupied with other things. Anyway, I doubt anyone could be outside in this kind of weather. Except for the truly curious or adventurous, there's just no way anyone would venture out into the middle of that snowstorm. Now that I caught my breath, I decided to explore the other parts of the facility. What's up, seriously, Juice? Welcome to the stream? Maybe I should take a look downstairs next. I went down the staircase beside this kitchen. A retrieval girl. Apparently this place is being used as a storeroom. There are provisions, fuel, medical supplies, miscellaneous daily supplies, all sorts of equipment, and so on, evenly spaced and neatly placed on the shelves. There's a bare pipe stretched across the ceiling. There wasn't a single window in the concrete walls. If this is the basement, then that would mean the floor I was just on was the first floor. But then again, the door leading outside should have made that obvious. I heard a sound like a groan coming from somewhere. A low mechanical tone that shook me to my core. I didn't know what the sound was. Ignoring it for now, I slid into the spaces between the shelves as if weaving myself through a crowd in rush hour. It was about as wide as the floor above. There weren't any places I could call interesting, and I didn't think anyone could be hiding anywhere around here. Wait. A second. I heard a faint sound. It sounded like a small animal running around. Perhaps a rat that had settled in here? When it comes to rats, I can handle rats. I wouldn't say that I can't handle rats. However, I had no interest in looking for one, so I could capture it. I returned to the first floor. But before I could finish climbing the stairs, I felt someone's presence. Fuck. As I glanced out from the kitchen, I saw the figure of a girl sitting silently in the dining chair. Is it gonna be what I look like? The girl had her head bowed. Oh. I couldn't make out her face from here, but I was pretty certain it wasn't the brown-skinned woman I had met earlier. I tried to loosen up. Calling out, I approached her. The girl showed no reaction. She merely sat there without moving a muscle. As if she had been carefully placed there by someone, like a figure at a wax museum. I stood right beside her and bent over to take a look at her face. Yep. It's either me or it's that killer girl, but I think it's me. I'm pretty sure it's what I look like. I gasped shortly and jumped back. I dashed back where the stairs were. Misstepping, my foot slipped. I gripped the handrail for a moment to regain my balance. My other hand was already covering my mouth. If not for that, I think I would surely have screamed. That's impossible. Why? Why was that girl in a place like this? It was fuck. It's the killer. It's not me. It's the killer. She turned as delicately as a ballerina faced me. There's no mistake. The girl in front of me was unmistakably her. That girl who had murdered 12 innocent people in a hospital in Awazumi City. Inabushi Keiko. There's no way I could possibly forget that face. As if to say hello, Inabushi slightly nodded her head. I awkwardly returned a nod. I have to say something. I knew exactly how I felt, but it seemed as if I'd completely forgotten how to speak out loud. Such situations are often attributed to a lump in the throat or the lips becoming too dry. But this was different. I had literally forgotten how to utter a word. Before my eyes was the murderous monster. The serial killer who had single-handedly rewritten the definition of crime in Japan. I felt that if I were to let my guard down for even a moment, I could easily become the 13th victim. My heart was pounding hard, and my skin was tingling as if an electrical current was running through it. The awkward silence continues. Inabushi kept staring at me expressionlessly. Her face was devoid of any emotion. It was hard to tell if she was thinking anything at all. I tried to hide my panic behind a calm smile. I don't think I was much good at it. Both my cheeks became stiff like plaster. Then the girl returned the smile. It was a very natural, sincere smile. I thought it was safe to let my guard down a bit. Of course, not so far as to let her read me like a book. And then she pulled out a knife. After seeing such a gentle smile, there was really little I could do. Although my reasoning was trying hard to build up a strong, impenetrable wall, my instinctive curiosity took the best of me. I was climbing over the protective wall and taking a step forward into danger. My voice quivered and gave away my nervousness. The girl stayed silent, as if she didn't understand what I had just said. I asked the same question again, but the girl just tilted her head. It couldn't be a different person? No, that's impossible. She looks exactly like the girl from the photo in the file. I don't think she's playing dumb. I'm pretty sure she's not. She looked as if she was lost in thought, but then shook her head gently. Well, this might be one of her other personalities that wasn't technically behind it. As if trying to gauge her reaction, I slowly stuttered through that sentence, but Inabushi Keiko just kept looking at me with her mouth shut. She didn't even look the least bit flustered. Oh, now she looks mad. Oh. She tilted her head as if in wonder and gave me a quick glance, then averted her gaze. She threw me a second glance, and at that moment, ooh! Fuck! As if having lost her temper, the girl stood up forcefully. She turned my way and started walking vigorously towards me. Flinching, my face twitched as I shrank away. In what seemed like a moment, she had my back up against the wall. Even then, the girl didn't stop moving. Breaking through the protective wall and ignoring all my warning sensors, she entered my personal space. There was nothing more to be done. She was at a distance that would make any kind of resistance futile. Why is protective space a tip? That's my question. How long do I have to keep scrolling to see what protective space means? I don't need to know what it means. I know what it means. I guess it's not a tip after all. Immediately after I squeezed out those words, the girl firmly gripped both my shoulders. I tried to scream. I took a deep breath. You nosy fucker. You should have just kept your mouth shut. But before I could let out a sound, the girl covered my lips with her palm. It's all over. I braced myself and squeezed my eyelids tightly shut. Nothing happened. Timidly, I opened my eyes. Now that I look carefully, her face looks as if she's on the verge of breaking down in tears. Her moist pupils seem to be eagerly appealing to me for something. Just what is this supposed to mean? I don't know what's going on, but at least I didn't feel any danger or hostility. My stiff body slowly regained its power to move. At the same time, the girl removed her hand from my lips. Oh, it's a tip, specifically the 7th tip. Oh, I just didn't see it. The region surrounding each person, or the area which person considers their domain or territory. Okay. Oh! It's 60 centimeters either side, 70 centimeters in front. 40 centimeters around the body. Behind the body. For the average Westerner. Okay. Interesting. Even when trying to ask for something, the girl spoke no words. Again, all she does is shake her head. The girl pointed to her own throat. In doing so, her other hand is flapping and waving, as if fanning the air. A gesture? If that's it, this action probably means... Yes, 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 the girl nods over and over again. In short, she isn't able to speak. However, that isn't all what she wanted to tell me? After I deciphered her last thought, the girl had stuck out the palm of her hand towards me. Wait here is what this probably meant. Without answering, the girl left my side. She's looking around the kitchen restlessly in search of something. Suddenly, looking as if she had found something, she ran out one of the doors in the four corners of the room. The girl's figure disappeared behind the door. The door was to the right of the main entrance, the closest to me at the moment. After a few moments, the girl jumped out of the doorway. Looking confused, she beckons me over.
何かあったの？
Oh, wow. The pain I had forgotten about was most likely coming from my limping knee. Somehow, rallying my strength, I managed to reach the open door. The girl went inside as if calling for me to come with her. It's a trap. There's no one in the room besides us. After I'd glanced around the room, Inubushi Keiko tilted her neck as if to point to something. Oh fuck. She had a black felt-tip pen in her right hand and a size A6 memo pad in her left. She had most likely found them somewhere in this room. She pushed the memo pad against the wall and started to write with the black felt-tip pen. Where she finished writing, I took a peek at the lines she had already scrawled on the page. I could make out the following. There are lots of things I want to tell you. But before that, look over there. The tip of the pen, she pointed toward the... There was nothing that felt particularly special about that area. Stretching, she held the pen high. The tip of the pen pointed toward a bed on the other side of the room. Was she trying to say there was something hiding over there? Feeling uneasy, I advanced toward the back of the room, following her directions. I went around to the side of the bed facing the window and stopped. It was at that moment, something wriggling jumped into my field of vision. Instinctively, I turned my head towards it.
Yuni!
Holy fuck! I blurted it out spontaneously. I took a closer look, there was no mistaking it. Sitting in front of me was Yuni, the boy I had been searching for so desperately. Wrapped up in a blanket, Yuni sat crouched in the narrow space between the bed and the wall.
大丈夫？どこも怪我しなかった？
As I knelt in front of him, I put my hands on his shoulder. What my palms felt was real. He's alive right here, and I gave thanks from the bottom of my heart for this blessing. My heart was racing from the joy of a reunion. A feeling of excitement ran through my body, powered by the hot blood charging through my veins. I could no longer hold myself back. My body rushed toward him. I wanted to hold him tightly in my arms, but... Holy fuck. We should look in a mirror. That one word escaping from his lips stopped me dead in my tracks.
どうしたのよ、ユニ。私あの飛行機が墜落した時、隣に座ってたじゃない。
My voice was high and shrill with confusion. Yuni's hollow, lifeless eyes were staring off somewhere. They appeared lost, not focused on anything particular. What the fuck is going on?
でも、君は楠田ユニ君なんでしょ？どうして僕の名前を？だってそれは。
I swallowed the words I was going to say, stopping in the middle of my sentence. We need a mirror. Give me a mirror. I suddenly realized something. And they were all too similar to those which had taken place short a while ago in that hospital-like room with that strange, moody woman. I had no idea who she was, but it seemed like she knew something about me. And now, although I clearly remembered Yuni, but he didn't seem to have a clue as to who I was. Switch, the situation was basically the same. Now that I think about it, the woman's expression only changed when I mentioned the name Kasuda Yuni. And now the person right in front of me also questioned me as to why I knew his name. What the heck is going on? Was it a bad idea for me to admit I knew Yuni, I wonder? I looked at him again. His eyes were pointed somewhere behind me, as if they were staring at something far away. His expression was void of all emotion, like that of a faded and dried-up doll. In my head, I could still remember how I had played so innocently and cheerfully with a doll, a small plush pear. I felt as if I'd lost something incredibly precious to me.
忘れちゃったんだ。だけど、その方が幸せかもしれない。幸せ？あの機内で起きたこと、私だって記憶を消したいぐらいだもん。
ちょっと待ってください。さっきから言ってることがよくわからないんですけど。僕、忘れてなんかいませんよ。あの飛行機に乗った時のことから、落ちた時のことまで全部 覚えてるんです。
It took a while for me to digest his words. In short, what that meant was, Yuni remembered everything about the flight and the crash, however he had no memory of me.
とにかくあなたは何か誤解してるんだと思います。
Misunderstanding, I'm pretty sure I couldn't have gotten anything mixed up. I was very certain I knew Yuni.
一つ聞いてもいいですか?
He's gonna ask me what your name is. Onamaiwa? Nandesu? My thoughts were interrupted by his
この
whispering.
人たちは
Oh, fuck.
どうなったんですか? あなたもあの飛行機に乗ってたんでしょ?
I was unable to speak. My confusion had left me for a loss of words as it was. Needless to say, his question didn't make things any easier for me. My memory stops at the point just before the crash. I had probably lost consciousness from the immense impact, and when I came to, I found myself on the bed in that strange room.
そうですか.
He seemed to have made sense of something simply listening to my silence. His lips trembled as he mumbled something. He went pale, his expression clouding over. From his pupils, a large round teardrops started to form and shake haphazardly, sparkling in the light. It looked as if he hadn't lost any of his emotions after all. He had just tried to seal them up deep in his heart.
ごめんなさい。何か分かったら教えてもらえますか? 実は僕、ある人を探してるんです。
If he says...
心って名前。名字は確か冬川だったと思います。
I couldn't believe my ears. My body started trembling nervously. I tried to calm myself down at first, but then realized I had no control over it and simply gave in. So it wasn't just that dark-skinned woman who was acting strange, even Yuni didn't recognize me as Fuka Kokoro. To have my whole existence simply denied like that was frightening, to say the least.
どうしたんですか?
Yuni asked in a delicate voice. I am... What the fuck am I supposed to say here? Oh my gosh. I'm saving. I'm making a save. Yes, create a file. Oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? Alright, so I can tell him that I'm Fukawa Kokoro. Because I think I am. But I think that'll scare the shit out of him. Or make him possibly not ever talk to me again. Or I could not say anything. Because I know something fucky is going on right here. And I need to find a mirror as soon as I can. But I think maybe things could be solved if I say I'm Kokoro? I don't think we should say anything. I think it's better if we don't. So there was no way for me to come up with a surefire comeback. What would it take for him to realize that I am Fukawa Kokoro? I couldn't quite make out Yuni's expression at the moment.
なんでもないの.
It took all I had just to mutter that. Yuni tilted his head curiously. His nonchalant gesture made my chest tighten and my heart feel another short, constricting burst of pain. I couldn't endure any more of this. I couldn't stay here anymore. I turned my eyes away from Yuni and
それ
spoke.
じゃあ私行くね。突然こんなとこに来ちゃったりしてごめんなさい。でも君に会えて嬉しかった。
Leaving him with those words, I stood up. Did I make the wrong choice? Juice? Oh fuck. As I did so, I saw something as good as a mirror in front of me. I could see it through the curtains. Darkness reigned outside. So the beautifully polished glass had nothing to show but the reflections of the object inside this room. Oh shit, here it is, here it is, here it is. Here it is. Of course, the walls, the lighting, and the furniture were not the only things that could be seen in there. My own appearance was faintly floating in it, painted hazily in the darkness. Oh fuck. I thought that maybe I was hallucinating. Because... I closed my eyes and opened them again, but what I at first thought was an illusion didn't want to disappear from the slick glass surface. A cold sweat ran across my back. I wanted to scream, but something was stopping me. It felt as if something was stuck inside my throat. Panicking, I hastily tried to reaffirm what I had seen. I was wearing clothes I didn't recognize at all, and it wasn't just my clothes that seemed alien to me. The tan, brutish fingers, the well-defined blood vessels, crisscrossing the back of my hand, the rugged silhouette. I ran my fingers through my hair, only to notice that its length and texture didn't feel like mine at all. Still not grasping the situation, I swallowed hard and turned to Yuni, almost crying out.
ねえ、鏡持ってたわよね。
鏡？
持ってるでしょ？ポケットに入ってるはずよ。
なんで知ってるの？
いいから早く貸して。
So confused, Yuni quickly took out his folding mirror. I quickly snatched it and stared at it intently. Are we a guy? Holy fuck! Are we that guy that collapsed? Why do we sound like a girl? That's where I was thinking. That is what I was thinking. I should have said it. That is what I was thinking. What in the fuck?
どうして？
Say I was astonished would be a gross understatement. Reflected in the mirror was the face of an unfamiliar man.
こんなの私じゃない。
Oh boy. Oh boy. I knew something like this was going to happen. I was calling it. I said we needed a mirror. We got a mirror.
私じゃない。私じゃない。私じゃない。
Why do we still sound like this? The inside of my head is spinning, mixed, shaken, blended by the confusion, overwhelming me. I needed to see my face. My movements, disfigured and distorted, are reflected almost perfectly in the face of the man in the mirror I'm holding.
なんなのよ、これ。どうして？なんでこんなことに？
The eyes of the man in the mirror bulged like a lunatic's. He was looking straight into my eyes. I couldn't bear it anymore. I violently clammed the mirror shut and threw it against the wall with all the strength I had. I fell to my knees, letting out a low moan. If it's not a spoiler, was I supposed to choose, but I'm Kokoro in that last choice? Or was it fine what I chose now? I don't know if this game has routes or what, or if it's linear, but, well not necessarily linear, but like only one main route, but I'm hoping I made the right choice or I didn't miss anything by not clicking that. Anyways, I fell to my knees, letting out a low moan. My nerve endings had gone dull. Senses numbing, all my thoughts thrown into the pits of chaos and assaulted by raging doubt and uncertainty. Who is that man? Am I that man? If that's me, then where did the me I used to be go? Who am I? My mind or my body? Which is the real me? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know! Something has gone horribly wrong. This world wasn't the world I knew anymore. Now that I think about it, ever since I woke up, I've been feeling a strange uneasy sense of the back of the letter word, incompatibility. Now, I finally knew the reason why. It felt as if the world was suddenly starting to reject me, and slowly I began to disappear. Overwhelmed by loneliness and neglect, my own existence started to fade. Anxiety took over. Everything that I am was replaced by a fear which made me want to scream out in desperation.
助けて。誰か私を。
I lost consciousness. And swap time? Oh great Sephiroth, our master. I had a dream. To me, who had lost all sense of time, that dream felt like it lasted forever. Or was it just for a moment? There was no light. I couldn't see anything. I could only hear a pleasant, steady pulse. Like an unborn child floating in the amniotic fluid. That's weird. Wrapped up in a calming and safe warmth, and felt as if all my sins had been forgiven. All the anxiety and horror within me melted and slowly diffused in the amniotic fluid, disappearing without a trace. I let my body go with the flow as I drowned in the ever-present warmth and lost myself in ecstasy. Here it felt like I was the only absolute and all-powerful existence. I was at the center of the universe. I didn't want to think about anything else anymore. I just wanted to stay like this forever. I didn't care if it was just a dream. Even if it was just a tranquil illusion, it was one which I preferred to that horrible reality. But a dream will never be more than a dream, which one must eventually awaken from. Without any warning, that moment of awakening came violently. Back to life. Liberation of self. I was forcibly dragged back into reality, bursting out of the empty space. Without enough time to even give a baby's first cry, I was born into a new world.
ここはどこ?
In front of me was a small, square glass window. The open palm of my right hand was pressed tight against the glass. I lowered my palm from the window. A palm print remained clearly visible on its cloudy white surface. I ripped it off with my sleeve and a familiar image appeared. Me? Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
私だ.
I felt dazed. My head was cloudy. However, I clearly could understand that the image reflected in that window pane was my own. It was the same face I had had for 20 years now. There's no way I could be mistaken. As soon as I realized it, the haze in my head immediately disappeared. I looked down, checked my clothes, looked at my palms, and stared at the back of my hands for a few moments. The fingers of both my hands traced the contours of my face, felt the texture of my skin, and ran through my hair, checking its length on the way through. It sprang up and down. There were dull pains in my neck and hip, but it wasn't all that bad compared to the pain I had felt before. I stretch out my arms as wide as I can. I take a series of deep breaths and start speaking out loud.
そっか、夢だったんだ.
それは違うよ. Even though it was just a dream, I somehow felt really happy to be back in my own body again. I cast another glance at my reflection and then turned my head. What? Before me were the figures of an unfamiliar man and woman. The words I had blurted in surprise hung in the silent air. I suddenly felt very awkward and gave a slight shrug. The source of the awkwardness was the words that had come out of my mouth earlier. I didn't stop to think that I might not be the only person in the room. Mumbling these meaningless words, I tried fruitlessly to relieve the tension in the moment while at the same time attempting to analyze the situation I found myself in. First of all, where am I? As I took a look around, I could see that everything, including the roof, the floor, and the wall. Where I stood, I could see a double bunk bed to the right and a doorway to the left. Near the wall across the room stood a wooden table along with a few simple chairs made from chopped logs. At the wall beside me was a rustic stove made out of cold oil barrels. I could hear a crackling sound, most probably produced by that red hot. Cumulus clouds of white steam rose from the tin kettle placed upon the stove. Considering how large the double bunk bed was, the floors of the room would probably fit 12 tatami mats. It may have actually been one tatami larger, but the window embedded in the wall was so tiny it made the room feel rather cramped. Mountain hut? Couldn't think of any other possibilities. I looked out the window to make sure. There was only the feature. As far as the eye could see, there wasn't anything that could provide me with a clue. It wasn't that I couldn't see anything, it was snow. My eyes were searching the scenery for more clues, but all they could see was the powdery snow dancing violently in the frozen darkness like pompous grass in the wind. Crystals of ice decorated the edges of the window. These scant clues didn't give me any idea where we were, but this was definitely no southern island paradise. Then it hit me. The cold. And it wasn't just your average cold. My body was freezing to its core, enough to make me want to hug the barrel stove beside me. And the voice made me turn around. The man looked worried as he watched over me. I'm alright wasn't something I could honestly say. Being suddenly seized by this freezing cold with two completely unfamiliar people in front of me. Just who were these people? The man in front of me wore a hooded jacket. His short-trimmed hair had casually fallen into disorder. There was a sparse amount of stubble growing around his mouth and chin, and his prominent cheekbones gave him a dauntless appearance. His body was in good shape. His figure was trim. That being said, by no means was he thin. The muscles on his shoulder and chest were toned to the degree that their contours were visible through his clothes. If anyone asked me, I'd have to say that he had an extremely manly, strong body. In contrast to this air of strength that his body gave off, his eyes seemed to be doing a poor job of hiding his overwhelming sadness. That woman was crouching in front of the stove, wrapped up in many layers of blankets like an empress in her robes. Her hands grasped a steel cup. Her eyes were not on me, but staring aimlessly at the contents of the cup. However, it didn't seem as if she was avoiding eye contact intentionally. Her garments were covered by the blanket, so I couldn't tell what she was wearing underneath. I could only see her dark brown high heels. Her shoes weren't at all that looked out of place. The woman, with her hair in an updo, gave off an air of calm sophistication. It would be an exaggeration to say that she was from high society. Surrounded by the drum stove, the tin kettle, and the assorted timber, her appearance was particularly conspicuous. The man looked as if he was in his mid-30s, while the woman appeared to be in her late 20s. Of course, that was just my estimate. They could have been younger. Anyway, I thought it was clear that both of them were older than me. First off, we're not gonna get anywhere talking to the woman first. I tried talking to the man. I think "who are you" would freak him out more. Where are we? He answered somewhat casually. He stroked his stubble. I held myself tighter as I trembled from the cold and meekly stepped toward the stove. What did he mean by that? There was no way I could possibly figure out where we were. I just waited for him to go on. But I what? He raised one of his eyebrows, drawing my eye momentarily before continuing. We're swapping minds, aren't we? Crash. Did I already forget about what had happened up until now? Reality and dreams were completely mixed up in my head as I tried hard to make sense of things. So that means the building and the people I saw before must have all been part of a dream. In the crash, what happened to the other passengers? Was Yuni saved? Although I couldn't be sure and felt a tinge of uneasiness, for some reason I wasn't really all that worried. Though I was still in a rather strange state of mind, I was definitely much calmer than the me in that dream. There was a mysterious feeling of confidence in me, feeling that Yuni was definitely alive somewhere. I do. I replied immediately. Surprised, he tilted his head. He went over to the table and picked up a steel cup. With one hand, he gestured for me to take a seat. I passed behind the woman who was wrapped up in his blankets and sat down at the table with my back to the wall. The man stood near the stove. He grabbed the tin kettle and poured some hot water into the cup. Foreshadowing. He placed the cup in front of me. I took a peek inside the cup and saw a reddish-orange liquid swaying lazily within. He glanced briefly at a corner of the room. There was an open rectangular latch. The hole was right next to the door. There was a ladder there. I couldn't see the storeroom below us.
持ちを落ち着けろと。
So Yuni's 11 years old. And Remember is 11. Remember11. I've cracked the code, guys.
ま、そういうことだね。
I wasn't particularly agitated or excited at anything. But it was true that my throat was dry, so there was no reason to refuse the offer. Just as he had suggested, I brought the cup to my lips. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. January 11th, 2011. Remember 11. I'm fucking stupid. I'm fucking stupid. Oh.
でも美味しいかも。
A refreshing gentle aroma similar to that of green apple tickled my nose. The hot liquid made its way to my throat, gently warming me to the core of my body. I am alive again would be the expression that described the way I felt best.
よかった。その笑顔のことだよ。笑った君を見たのは初めてだからね。
Now that he mentioned it, my face did feel like it was smiling. It was a little embarrassing. The steam rising from the cup slipped into my nose as I started talking.
そういえばまだ名前伺ってませんでしたよね。
名前？
ええ、あなたの名前です。
He sat down at the table across from me. Oh, no. I wasn't freaking out about the date. What I was freaking out was when I saw the date in the first place. I didn't think anything of it that it was 111111. I was just like, oh, it's just a bunch of ones. I didn't connect it to the 11, remember 11. Yeah, we're live. We are live, buttheaded. But I think the stream is a little bit behind because there was some disconnect. Welcome, Ixus. You didn't realize it was on? I sent it a ton of times, and it blew up the Discord because it kept tagging everybody when it went live. But anyways, yeah, we're here. We're live. And we're talking to this guy right now, who is about to tell me his name. Oh shit. No, you didn't.
さっき
Just now? What exactly was just now? I had no idea.
忘れてしまったとしても無理もないか。相当気が動転してるみたいだったからね。
It wasn't me. It was that other guy. I didn't know what he meant by that. What in the world was he talking about? As I struggled to wrap my head around what he had said, the man reached into his jacket pocket and took out a packet of cigarettes along with silver lighter. You know, if you woke up in... Just hear me out here. If you woke up in a strange room and looked in a mirror and saw a face that wasn't yours, and then lost consciousness and woke up back here and saw your face again, couldn't you make the connection that perhaps you swapped bodies with whoever that person was? Maybe? He tapped a cigarette out of the pack and placed it in his mouth. He handled the lighter incredibly naturally, snapping it open with ease. After the crisp, metallic sound faded, a red flame softly flickered into being. Carrying the flame close to the tip of the cigarette, he exhaled in puffed purple smoke. Yomogi Seiji. He has a name. It's not just man. What are you guys joking about? He placed the cigarette into his left hand and extended the other to me in greeting. I gladly shook it. His palm was so thick and rugged, it was as if it was made of rock. And then... What the fuck? Somebody's at the door trying to break in. Suddenly a loud noise. Acting on instinct, I pulled my hand back defensively.
どうしたんだ? 大丈夫か?
The man who had introduced himself as Yomogi shouted into the corner of the room. There in the corner was the square hole I had seen just a few moments ago.
ちゃっただけだから。
A voice could be heard from coming inside the hole. Familiar voice. It couldn't be! Masaka! I shut up from my seat.
なんだ、また例の発作じゃないだろうな。
I didn't have any time to answer. Before I could even think, my body had sprung into action. Climbing to the ladder, clinging to the ladder, I glided down it and descended to the basement, where I saw youth personality development. What the fuck? What the fuck is going on? What the fuck? So, this happened. Yeah, what the fuck? I'm trying to figure out why. But I'm not coming with any answers right now. He looked at me vacantly. Oh, 1 second. I'm just going to change the setting on my stream. Oh, I can't change the setting on my stream without restarting the stream. Okay, whatever. Next time I stream, I will change it to ultra low latency so there's no delay. Dozens of logs for the stove were scattered at his feet.
どうしたの？
He asked with a surprisingly calm face. I slowly moved toward him. I stopped in front of him. Standing stiff as a rod, he looked up at me.
ココロンなの？
His pupils widened as he blinked, muttering those words.
ユニ、僕のこと覚えててくれたんだね。当たり前でしょ。忘れるわけないじゃない。
Filling with joy, I embraced him tightly without a second thought.
待った。このままだと壊れちゃうかもしれないから。
Saying that, Yuni slowly removed his glasses. He placed his glasses on the shelf and then... Suddenly, with a voice as lovely as a girl's, he leapt into my arms.
会いたかったよ。
Aww.
会いたかったよ、ココロン。
How do I... What's the button to hide? Do we have controls here? I'm trying to hide the background here. Can't figure out how to. Oh, fuck. Yuni aimlessly groped at my back. He rubbed his face against me, snuffling like a spoiled child. I cradled him in return. With all the strength in my arms, I squeezed him tighter and tighter. This is the second time I've been reunited with this boy. Interesting. Yuni equals 1. Interesting. Yeah, but pressing control isn't the way to, to hide the text box. Do you guys know how to hide the text box? If you do, please let me know. So I want to, get the CG, although I'm sure people already have the CG somewhere, so it's not a huge deal. Yuni had recognized me as myself. He greeted me as myself and confirmed me as myself. Just that was enough to make me feel very, very happy.
ココロン、僕言わなくちゃいけないことがあるんだ。何？助けてくれてありがとう。もうお礼なんて言わなくていいって。私は何もしてないもん。
Yes, I couldn't do anything at that time. I'd only fastened his seatbelt and taken his hand in mine. If there was anyone to thank for our rescue, it could only be God. Rather than fate, it seemed more appropriate to call this a miracle from God. It's not space. Space wasn't working. Oh! Okay, here we go. Time to take a screenshot of that. Yay. Save it. Alright. I clung to Yuni's body as though I'd never let him go. I put his head under my nose and filled my lungs with his scent. That's a little weird. We're alive. The smell of his hair, the burning warmth of the skin. Alive, alive. Over and over again, I repeated in my mind. I trembled in joy as I stood witness to this miracle. After a while, I realized that my cheeks were wet. The small drops clinging to my lips were warmer than the chamomile tea I had just drunk. We stayed in our embrace for quite a while, long enough to lose track of time. Right then, my mind was completely void of the members of my strange dream with its grotesque script and frighteningly detailed scenery. But still, there was one thing bothering me. So, Yuni had said we found him right away. Do I just have to keep clicking this? Let's see. At first, he said wait at first. Oh, he said you remembered me. Are you Coco? Why did he ask if we were Kokoro? What Yuni had said had bothered me. The first words that had come from Yuni's lips was as if something had felt out of place. A suspicious feeling of dissatisfaction stirred in my mind. But even so, something as trifling as that didn't matter much now. With the end of the hug nowhere in sight, the little doubt that had sprouted in the corner of my mind slowly faded away. What? I had forgotten everything, becoming intoxicated with his warmth as I continued to soak in the happiness of our reunion. I'm left-handed. I use a pen, chopsticks, or scissors. I always hold them in my left hand. That's why I wear a watch on my non-dominant right wrist. It would interfere with a variety of things. Of course it's on my right wrist even now. It was a wristwatch I had fancied and bought just the other day. The analog dial indicated that it was 9:37. The animus within the anima. The inside of the room was enveloped by the sad cry of the wind wailing outside. Other than that, beside the lid of the kettle rattling, not a sound could be heard. Not a single person opened their mouth. The heavy silence persisted. Oh, arrow keys work better in history. Cool. Ah yes, they do work better. Thank you. The cup placed in front of me was already empty. The chamomile tea had truly warmed my body and calmed my heart. I'd also gotten used to the feeling of sitting on hard wooden logs. I put my back up against the wall and observed the others. Yuni was sitting on the bed bunk, dangling his legs. His face showed boredom, but even like this, he was far more energetic than the Yuni from my dream. Yomogi had fixed his gaze on the window, observing the conditions outside. Smoke was slowly rising from the cigarette he had leisurely held between his middle and index fingers. Just some initial impressions from playing so far. I don't like the music as much as I liked the Ever 17 music. It's OST's... it just kind of is lacking something, in my opinion. But, I guess you could say it doesn't really have a feel. A feel to it, like a tone that matches the actual setting. What I liked about Ever 17 was all of the soundtracks had that, like, sci-fi, metallic feeling. You know what I mean. And this... I mean, this kind of fits the mood, but it doesn't fit, like, the really snowy, dark, dreary, cold atmosphere. Anyways... the woman who was wrapped up in numerous blankets hadn't moved an inch from her spot in front of the stove. She flicked a stray lock of hair from behind her ear. There was a lovely elegance to her actions, which even though it was a woman, even though I was a woman, drew my eyes with its coquettish charm. Even after being thrown here in such a disordered state, she still took great care in keeping herself proper from the angle of her figures to the tilt of her neck. There were 4 of us inside the cabin, including myself. There was also that one thing all 4 of us had in common, and that was that we were all in a hurt. Of course, we could probably easily find 1 or 2 scratches or bruises on our bodies. However, no one had any serious injuries. Our bones were fine, and all of our insides seemed to be in place. It's not like I asked anyone directly, but that much was obvious from just observing the people around me. I don't remember a single thing about the crash, but I do know that the shock from it had to be tremendous. Yet here we are, alive and well. As I thought about it, I couldn't help but think of the word miracle as well. Miracle. Oh, what a wonder it was that we were all alive here like this. This room didn't have any electric lighting. Only the light of the lantern served to illuminate the hopeless air around us. The flame within it wavered, causing the shadows in the room to dance and sway along with it. Somehow it was a very illusionary scene. Enchanted by the dubious flicker of the flame, I began to lose sight of the boundary between reality and fantasy. If the silence continued, I felt like I would once again be consumed by that bizarre dream world. Anyway, it doesn't matter what it is, so somebody say something. Oh, let's see. What do we do? Let's talk to the woman. I don't think she'll talk to me, but we'll see. I tried speaking with the woman wrapped up in blankets. Silence. There was no reason she wouldn't be able to hear me. I was simply being ignored again. She had been so thoroughly ignoring me that I began to feel as though she was doing it as some sort of hostility towards me. Did I do something to leave her with a bad impression of me, perhaps? Oh, I don't remember doing anything like that. I had just met her recently. We haven't even exchanged a single word. Or it was possible that she was just that kind of person to begin with. It might be that she really wasn't a people person or something like that. Or she could be deaf! Did you ever think of that? Or mute? With nothing else to do, I started talking to Yomugi. Yomugi looked out the window and took a long drag on his cigarette. Slowly letting the smoke out, he wipes the white cloudy window. They all died. Yukido? Did I hear him wrong? Yomugi lit the window and made his way to the center of the room. He took a square box from the shelf behind the bed. He prepared the chamomile tea while holding his cigarette between his lips. He poured some tea. Is that what the other guy is named? What was the name? Yukido. Yukido is the other guy, probably. Ugh.
何から話そうか。ユキドさんはどこまで記憶があるんだっけ？さっきは確か墜落の時のことは全部覚えてるって。
Tell him your name is not Yukido. Again, he uses a name I've never heard before.
なんでそんなしかめっ面？
I straightened my posture and began to talk, looking intently at him.
話の前に一つだけいいですか？
なんだ？
ユキドって誰ですか？
誰ってそれはもちろん君のことだよ。
I was astonished. Sighing deeply, I could feel myself starting to shake. Why? Why were things like this happening one after another? I can't exactly say why I was angry, but there was no way I was just going to bite my tongue. I raised my voice to protest.
私の名前は冬川心です。
Really, I wonder how many times I would have to repeat myself like this. I'm tired of it already. Although the other times I said that phrase had been inside the dream.
冬川心？
そうです。冬川心です。学生証見せましょうか？それとも免許証の方がいいですか？なんだったら今すぐ区役所行って戸籍謄本取ってきてもいいですけど。
いや、すまん。怒らせてしまったみたいだね。だけど、有機道というのはそもそも君の。
Yomogi hesitated to speak. His gaze wavered around the room as he rubbed the stubble on his chin.
まあいいか。君がそこまで言うんなら、おそらくそうなんだろう。
おそらくじゃなくてそうなんです。
わかった。わかったよ。君の名前は冬川心。間違いないね。
はい。
Calm down, Kokoro, I clearly asserted. And then,
待って、ちょっと待ってよ。
the woman who had persistently persevered, her silence, until now, finally opens her mouth. Preserved, not persevered. Throwing off her blanket, she delicately stands up and walks purposefully toward me.
あんたどういうつもり？
She slams both of her hands on the table. Bending forward, she brings her face up to mine. Her entire body gives off a ghastly aura, filling me with dread.
私の名前は冬川心？じゃあなんでさっきは有機道なんて言ったのよ。
I don't know what she's angry about, but the dreadful expression on her face leaves me unable to reply.
答えなさいよ。何企んでんのよあんた。
Plotting? Now this is a word I remember hearing. Somehow it almost feels exactly like a reenactment of my dream. Saying I'm a Fuukawa Kokoro and having someone get angry because of that, it did rather resemble the dream. And was that dream supposed to be some kind of premonition?
ねえ、ちょっと聞いてんの人の話。
聞いてますよ。
さっきとは随分態度が違うのね。
Before. Let's say before, what do these people mean?
もう一度だけ聞くけど、なんであんなバカなこと言ったわけ？
バカなことって。
とぼけないでよ。あんたが有機道悟の名前を語ったことに決まってるでしょ。
だからその人は誰なんですか？
白々しい演技はやめて。
Act, even though I'm not acting.
まあまあ、落ち着けよ、舞澄。冬川さんが怖がってるじゃないか。
あんた今なんて言った？眉澄。眉澄って言ったわよね。気安く呼び捨てになんかしないでくれる？何様のつもりなわけ？
じゃあ、なんて呼べばいいんだ？りんちゃんか？
なめてんだろこのヒゲ親父。私はちゃん付けで呼ばれるのが世界で一番嫌いなのよ。
りんちゃん。
だから2番目に嫌いなのは
見ず知らずの他人に呼び捨てにされること。
3番目は
3番目はそうね、名前を間違って呼ばれることかしら。りんなのにすずとか、眉澄なのにかおるとか。そういえばいつだったかダイレクトメールにトンビって書いてあったこともあったわ。なんで我が家に届くわけ？人のこと勝手に猛禽類扱いしないでほしいわ。
トンビだっていつかタカが生まれるといいね。
うるさい、ガキはすっ込んでろガキは。
わ、なんだよその言い方。ちょっと冗談言っただけな。
何よ、文句あんの？
Tell her that my name's Kokoro.
はあ、
Oh, she's gonna slap you. Yumi had probably gotten angry, as he deliberately muttered the phrase at a volume just loud enough for it to be heard.
ばあさん？23歳の裏若き乙女を捕まえといて、ばあさんってどういうことよ、ばあさんって。
ばあさんだからばあさんって言ったんだよ。
Oh, get wrecked.
てめえ。
ほら、目尻にカラスの足跡が浮かんでますよ、トビリンちゃん。
このクソガキ、やんのかこら。
やらねえよ。誰がお前みたいなババアとなんかやるもんか。
もう完全にブチ切れちゃったわ。スマキにして外に放り出してやろうかしら。
やれるもんならやってみろよ、星垣ババ
上等じゃないのよ、このイソギンチャクメガネ。
こら、いい加減にしないか、2人とも。
Yomogi, sick of watching their back and forth, decided to interfere and push the two apart.
ここがどこなのか忘れたわけじゃないだろう。こんなくだらないことで体力を消耗してどうする。でもはなしだ。これ以上続けるつもりなら倉庫で寝てもらうことになるぞ。
Yomogi lectured them in a surprisingly dignified tone. The two exchanged sharp glares, but restrained themselves from taking any further actions. Even those two couldn't do anything with Yomogi standing like a mountain between them. Neither really backing down, Yuni and the woman both looked away and returned to their respective territories. Yomogi sighed as he placed his hands on his hip. Okay, I like this soundtrack a lot. This soundtrack's really fitting, and I think the last one was too. Before we knew it, we had lost track of our conversation, and the target of the woman's anger had completely changed. I was certainly glad to have gotten out of further questioning, but anyway, I was able to at least establish the woman's name. Mayuzumi Lean. Like a cat about to flee after a fight, she opened her mouth to let out a last parting complaint. Her personality was the complete opposite of what I imagined it would be based on her mature looks and graceful bearing. The image of her I had in my mind just a few moments earlier had been thoroughly revised. The woman had a rude, harsh, and uninhibited personality. By the way, Mayuzumi's questioning, although it had been brief, had implanted a lingering feeling of uneasiness in the corner of my mind. It's about Yukido Satoru. Why was I mistaken for this Yukido person, who I've sure never met and know nothing about? First of all, just who is Yukido Satoru? That and the words both Yomogi and Mayuzumi had said bothered me. Maybe ask what I was asking or what I was like, because I don't remember saying that. Before, replaying it all in my head, I finally arrived at an answer. Based on what they were saying, only one conclusion could be reached. No, something like that just wasn't possible. I denied my own thoughts immediately. It was something that I couldn't believe, that I didn't want to believe. The conclusion that I had reached was simply too unreal to accept. That's why I turned away from it. I didn't want to think about it any further. Okay, so is she actually smart? Is she realizing? If right away she's thinking she swapped bodies, that's pretty smart of her. I am me, Fuyukawa Kokoro. I'm no one else but me, trying to suppress my wild thoughts. I tried to convince myself of this. The inescapable reality. It was around 10 p.m. A large heap of blankets in hand, Mayuzumi climbed up onto the top bunk. Now there was a woman lying with her back towards us in more ways than one. That kind of person that would just stay in bed just to show everyone how much she detested their company. I wasn't sure if she was really sleeping or not. She may have just had her eyes closed. In any case, without so much as a sorry or a good night, this woman shut herself away in her own little world. Naturally, there wasn't anyone who bothered to ask her what she was up to. To tell the truth, I myself was a little relieved that the troublesome one had decided to settle down. As if prudently choosing his timing, Yomogi quietly opened up his mouth. He carefully chose his words as he continued solemnly.
HAL18 便、それが僕らの乗っていた小型旅客機の正式名称だ。飛行機は乗員乗客31名を乗せ、一路日本列島の最北端、稚内を目指していた。順調に飛行を続けていれば、午後5時には空港へと到着しているはずだった。しかし、
January 11, 2011, 4:08 p.m., flight HAL-18 crashed deep in the snowy mountains. I, who had regained consciousness after being thrown out of the plane, began my search and rescue efforts for survivors. A snowstorm was raging all around, sunset was drawing near, and I could barely see past my nose. Still, I didn't give up. The fact that I was alright meant that there had to be other survivors as well, I thought. It was not a feeling of obligation or a sense of justice which kept me going. I was spurred on by some inexplainable instinct. Before long, I found two women among the scattered rubble. Ayazumi Lin, and you. Having lost consciousness from the shock of the crash, you were laying beneath the caved-in ceiling, your head hanging limp. Even when I shook you by the shoulders and slapped your cheeks, you showed no sign of coming to. Ayazumi, on the other hand, was conscious. She had stood up on her own, mumbling something deliriously, and started aimlessly walking into the downpour of snow on her unsteady feet. The girl had most likely lost at least some of her sanity to the shock of the crash. Even when I called for her to stop, my voice didn't seem to reach her ears.
どうにか彼女を捕まえた僕はとにかく風だけでも防げる場所はないかと思い探し始めた。見つかったのは前後が切断された機体の一部だった。黒く焼けただれた外壁、無様に露出した骨組み。その姿はまるで朽ち果てた怪物の屍のように見えた。僕は舞泉の手を引き、君を背中に担いで屍の中へと逃げ込んだ。
Inside, a foul stench filled the air. I suddenly realized that the smell was that of burning meat. Oh fuck. There were chunks of charred flesh stuck firmly to the seats which had been fixed to the floor. Dead bodies were still seated with their heads against the back of the seats in front of them. Some of the bodies were missing everything from the seatbelt. Oh. There were bloodstains, scrap of flesh, and entrails splattered against the windows. This is an EMT's worst nightmare, by the way. There was one corpse that seemed comparatively unharmed, but it stayed motionless, frozen solid like a plaster sculpture. The only word that could describe this disastrous scene was hell. Having taken it all in, Mayuzumi looked absent-minded and dazed. You were still unconscious, so you didn't react at all. However, a single sigh escaped your lips, which made me believe you surely get better with time. Your body temperature, however, was nearly that of a corpse. That made sense. You were wearing the same clothes you had boarded the plane in. Of course, you weren't the only person with this problem. Mayuzumi was the same. She was covered with a suit and high heels, and her legs were covered only with a thin pair of stockings. Left like that, the two of you surely would have died. With this in mind, I looked through the melted baggage compartments in the ceiling of the plane in hopes of finding something useful amongst the luggage. I grabbed the bags that looked like they might have had something helpful inside and pulled them down. I found a down jacket and fur coat, a wool sweater, muffler, and some gloves. I got together as many clothes like that I could find and dress you two in them. By the time I'd finished, the sun had disappeared beyond the horizon. There were only two things to be done next. First, I had to make a shelter by closing off the open ends of the shore and airframe. Second, I had to find some means of communication to send out a distress signal. I didn't spare a thought for anything else. There might have been people still alive somewhere in the snowfield, however the small pieces of wreckage had been scattered over a large area, which would have made further searching near way down the mountain. In this state of affairs, that took precedence over everything else. As a mountaineer, I knew how terrifying and treacherous the snow mountains could be. To start marching randomly inside a snowstorm is reckless at best. I didn't have a clue as to where we were. I didn't even know which way it was to the base, so I couldn't even think about descending the mountain. Our options were very, very limited. We spent all night in a bivouac, with nothing else to do but wait for the weather conditions to improve. You know, if ever there was a time for a tip, now would be it. Bivouac. Mountain climbing term, meaning to sleep outdoors, to pass the night at a location where there are no cabins or campgrounds. If they got better, a military or rescue helicopter would have no problem finding us. Of course, that'd be pointless if the three of us lost our lives before they arrived. That's why to live. That was the highest priority for us. Now what does this, oh. Okay. I assume the scene's done means... What's the difference between total done and scene's done? If anybody could tell me that, that would be great.
が暮れてしまったことによって辺りの気温はみるみるうちに下がっていった。吐き出した息がたちまち凍りつくような温度。指先の感覚はとうに失っていたが、それでも僕は黙々と作業を続けたのだった。ところが一つ目の穴を半分ばかり埋め終えた頃、僕はあることに気がついた。舞澄がいない。どこを見渡してみても彼女の姿がなかった。
I rushed outside. Thick snowflakes began to fall and clinging to me in layers as if they had been eagerly waiting for their chance. I bent double to avoid this attack, pulling my hood close over my eyes and began searching in the darkness. The piled up snow beneath my feet was immeasurably deep. Thanks to that, I could see the trail broken by Maizumi's rustling through. I think I know what rustling means, but okay. Rustle, to push through layers of deep snow, creating a path while moving forward, a mountain climbing term. Okay. Scenes done is how much of the total scene you've read, okay. With a torch in hand, I turned to find more traces. I could barely see a thing. In the middle of the snowstorm at night, the light of a pocket flashlight was almost useless. If I tried calling out at the top of my lungs, the roaring of the wind would have effortlessly drowned out my voice. I couldn't waste another moment if I wanted to find her, as the traces she had left behind were quickly being filled with snow. I jumped into the snow. My body began to move without a second thought. I pushed on, parting the fallen snow before me. Blinded by a myriad of snowflakes, I single-mindedly continued to pursue her trail. After marching on for about 10 minutes, I finally caught a glimpse of her. She had collapsed face down in the middle of a large snowfield. I had no idea why she'd do something so foolish. Losing her cool and giving into panic, she may have just thought, doesn't matter where I go, I just need to get away. Anyway, she had made her way here and probably collapsed from exhaustion. I brought my ear closer to her mouth. I could hear her breathing just barely. I quickly put her on my back and started making my way along the path I had made coming here.
いくら体重の軽い女性とはいえ、人一人を背負ってのラッセルは想像を超えて過酷だった。
I'm turning my light off to improve the atmosphere. And I'm gonna move this in full screen mode, if it still is... Okay, cool.
星まで埋まるほどの新雪が僕らの行く手を阻んでいた。
Mood improved.
一足を踏み出すことさえ至難の技だった。そうしている間にも吹きつける地吹雪は容赦なく体温を奪っていった。四肢の感覚は完全に麻痺し、指先は太い針金のように凝固していた。進めども進めども周囲の景色は一向に変わる気配を見せなかった。どこまで行っても呪われたように酷濁した空間が広がっているだけだった。
Before long, I lost sight of the path. The markers I had left behind had become buried by the snow and were indiscernible. My legs had become completely stuck. I couldn't take a single step further. I knelt down in the snow. I knew this would happen from the moment I set out. If you walk out in a snowstorm, then it's only natural for you to lose your way. But even then, I had never once thought of turning back. Why is that? It might have been that bringing back Maizumi was just an excuse, when in reality I wanted to meet my end here. Shut up, don't give up. No matter where I looked, the desolate barren plain was dyed the color of death. This world, ruled by despair and emptiness, was rejecting my life, and the act of breathing was regarded by it as a sin. The sharp pain running through my entire body was sure testament to that. Maizumi still on my back, I collapsed in the middle of the snowfield. Right then, I thought I heard a voice. A voice I'd heard so often, but now thought I'd never have to hear again. but now thought I'd never hear again.
お父さんお父さん
I knew it had to be an illusion. Faced with death, my consciousness was breaking down. It felt like a voice of a spirit had come to taunt me. However, I couldn't help but try to confirm it. Having gathered the remainder of my strength, I strained my throat and raised my nearly frozen body to its unsteady feet.
純一なのか
Junichi?
お父さんこっちだよこっちに山小屋があるんだ見つけたんだよ
What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? When I snapped out of it, I saw a boy standing in front of me. It was the boy I happened to...
僕についてきて
Saying this, the boy started walking. I gave my head a good shake, which somehow brought my strained consciousness back into focus. The boy wasn't my son, and that's how I was sure it wasn't just my delusion or some mysterious phantom, but a definite, real entity with a solid shape and form.
何ボケっと突っ立ってんだよ山小屋はすぐそこなんだだから早く
I once again lifted Maizumi onto my shoulders. With the boy in front of me as a guide, I started walking forward, and then...
午後7時16分墜落から3時間を経て僕らはようやくこの小屋へとたどり着いた。言うまでもなく僕らを導いてくれた少年とはユニのことだ。あの時ユニが来てくれなければ僕と舞泉は今頃冷たい雪の下で眠っていたことだろう。いわばユニは僕らにとっての命の恩人だった。残念ながら当時意識を失っていた舞泉にはその実感がないようだけれど。これがここに至るまでの経緯だ。理解してもらえたかな？
I think so. With those words, Yoni tried to finish off his long speech. But...
ちょっと待ってください。
What about me?
私はその後どうなったんですか？
Wanting to tie up all the loose ends, I asked him again. Yomugi smiled ever so slightly.
もちろん助けに行ったさ。ユニにも手伝ってもらってね。あの輪切りになった機体の中から君をここまで搬送したんだ。正直言って楽な作業ではなかったよ。今は元気そうに見えるかもしれないけれど、あの時の僕はほとんどくたばりかけた状態だったんだね。
でもどうして機体の位置が分かったんですか？ヨモギさん、道に迷っちゃったんでしょ？
ユニが知ってたんだよ。
ユニが？
I turned towards Yuni. Behind Yomugi, Yuni was sitting in the spot where Maizumi had been camped out until shortly before. And his back to me, I can't see his face. I didn't know whether or not he'd been listening to our conversation either.
なんでユニが墜落機の場所を？
彼はコンパスを持っていたんだ。
コン
Whoa.
パスって方位磁石のことですよね。
ああ、墜落の衝撃によって機外へと放り出されたユニはある一定の方角に向かって歩き始めたらしいんだ。
So are we just gonna ignore the other Yumi we saw? The one that was obviously with Satoru? In that crazy place?
あの状況においては適切な判断だったと思うよ。何しろ周りには風を遮る場所さえなかったんだからね。その場にうずくまっていれば誰かが助けに来てくれるというような状況でもなかったわけだし、だから彼は歩き始めたんだ。と言ってもデタラメな方向に向かって闇雲に進んでいったというわけではない。きちんと目標地点を定め歩数を測りながら彼は吹雪の中を歩いた。そうすればその方角に何もないと分かった時元の地点に引き返すことができるだろう。大したもんだよ。とても11歳とは思えない判断力だ。ユニはプロの登山家である僕なんかよりもよっぽど冷静だったってわけさ。
A weird feeling of suspicion perhaps started welling up inside of me. found myself unable to blindly admire Yuni's efforts. Things like Yuni conveniently having a compass and not losing his cool after the shock of the crash. Who the fuck was that kid we saw? It was Yuni. He even admitted it was him. If you put it all together, he couldn't help but think there was something unusual going on.
まあ、とにかくそんなわけで、ユニは偶然この避難小屋を発見するに至ったんだ。ここで重要なのは、彼が自分の歩んできた方角と、ここにたどり着くまでの歩数をちゃんと覚えていたということだ。
I'm interested. What is the, Oh! It looks like Escape hides it too. So does O. Escape and O both hide it. Wow. The BGM. Chaining Beta. I think that's Beta.
だからこそ僕らは
私が取り残されていた墜落機の場所を特定できた。そういう
何か気になることでも
いえ、別に。
I said that, but in reality, innumerable things were still bothering me. In today's conversation, nobody had mentioned even once how Yuni had managed to find Yomogi and Maizumi. Moreover, even if it were possible for Yuni to return to his own starting point, that didn't necessarily mean that I was easy to find again amongst the snow. Looking at the possibility of all these occurrences, it seemed like I accidentally just pressed forward. It seemed like even the word miracle would be an understatement to describe all that had happened. It felt like a work of some invisible power, like we might have been led to this cavern inevitably. An invisible power? What could it be? I have no idea. I murmured as I brought the cup closer to my lips. The chamomile tea inside had become cold by now.
そうだ。大事なことを言い忘れてましたね。
Once it hit me, I lowered my head. Wiping my lips and correcting my posture, I spoke. You see, I saw a hallucination!
ありがとうございます。
Oh. That's not important.
お礼ですよ。
I mean, that is important. I say thank you to everything. I say thank you so many times that people probably get tired of me saying thank you. I say thank you so much a lot, and they're probably like, why are you're overdoing it, boy. But okay. Anyways.
助けてくれて本当にありがとう。
やめてくれよ。そういうのは苦手なんだ。
本当にありがとうございます。
それに俺なら彼に言った方がいいんじゃないかな。
Yomogi stuck out his thumb and pointed towards Yuni, who was sitting behind him. I stood up and went closer to Yuni. Yuni had curled up into a ball in front of the stove. The way he held his head made it difficult for me to see his face. Oh no! Oh no, I don't like this. I squatted down beside him and spoke. Yuni didn't reply. Leaning down, I lightly shook him by his shoulder. I took a peek at his face. Crouched in place, Yuni was breathing evenly in his sleep. Oh, okay. I said in a soft voice. In reality, I felt like I wanted to hug him from behind and roll around with him on the floor. I was overwhelmed with a feeling of gratitude. One that could not be conveyed by thousands or even tens of thousands of words. Okay, so what the fuck? We have... What was I gonna say? There's people at that place. That woman said that Kokoro was already dead. So is she in the future from us? Are we years apart? And Satoru in the past? And Yuni is 11 years old forever? And this is his hometown or something? I solved it, guys. I solved it. That we're alive right now is all thanks to them. Yuni and Yomogi. I gently embraced Yuni's body and laid him down on the bottom bunk. I placed several blankets on top of him and then a few more for good measure. Yuni tossed a bit in his sleep as he mumbled something. I quietly removed his glasses.
さてと。
Holding Yuni's glasses in my hand, I wander aimlessly around the cabin. What is this called? Anima. It does match the previous chapter. Animus and anima or whatever. The emotions welling up inside me, seeking an outlet, are driving me to walking around in circles. This is a passionate feeling of gratitude, and I needed to convey it to someone somehow. But who? Well, of course. Whoa, I was not expecting seeing myself like that. Without an almost indecent cry. With an almost indecent cry, I jumped onto Yomi's back without warning. Poor guy. Our limbs entangling, we tumbled, rolling around on the floor. Kokoro, what are you doing? Stop it.
やめろ冬川やめろやめてくれやめてくれ
やめないもんね。
意味がわかんねえんだよ何なんだよこれは何なんだよ
意味なんかないの。いわゆる感情表現ってやつ。
感情表現おい早まるな冬川僕らはまだそういう関係じゃないだろう
No, Yomugi, take off your pants.
薄くて破れないやつも今は持ち合わせてないし
そんなのいらないの。ゴロゴロハグ
My expression of feelings continued for a while afterwards. What the fuck? Oh, fuck. It's this. This candle. Doesn't mean good things. Fuck. Hello? Falling into autism? What? After my outburst ended, I felt embarrassed right away. Does this say the date? Oh fuck, what'd I do? Sorry. After my outburst ended, I felt embarrassed right away. It was a little awkward. Yomugi stared at the wall, seemingly half shy and half shocked. Inside the cabin, the silence continued. I drank the last of the chamomile tea and found myself with nothing else to do. Perhaps he was the type to hold a grudge. Yomugi shrugged his shoulders.
そんな偶然があればいいんだが残念ながらあの吹雪じゃ場所の特定は
そうですよね。この小屋には何かないんですか？
散々探したよ
I was at a loss. I was happy before, but our situation might be even more hopeless than I imagined. I searched in my pocket for anything that might serve as a clue. All I found was a voice recorder. I guess that was to be expected. After all, if something I'd been carrying had turned out to be a clue about this cabin, it'd just be scary. I just scared the shit out of myself because the lights in my room, I turned them all off and it's dark. It's completely dark because the sun is set already. And my Xbox controller and my PC are the only sources of light. So my Xbox controller is an Afterglow controller, and it's plugged into my PC. It doesn't work with this game, but it's still plugged into my PC nonetheless. And it has a blue light on it. It's like lit up in blue, and it's currently on the floor, and it's shining light onto the wall. And I moved my leg, and my leg cast a huge shadow on the wall and scared the shit out of me. But anyways, back to your regularly scheduled programming. The playback display only reads Data 1 and Data 2. Having recorded Data 1 myself, I already know what was on it, but I played it back even so. I actually recorded this? Why?
宇宙船ボストーク6号に乗り込んだ彼女は一人 完全な静寂と虚無に支配された宇宙空間を漂いながら。
It was my voice, although that was obvious. And then Yomogi too took something out that appeared to be a machine from his breast pocket. While continuously staring at it, he shook his head slightly and laid it on the table. At first I thought it was a wristwatch, but it was a little bigger than an ordinary watch, and also had so many different attachments that it looked like it would be cumbersome. Was it some sort of computer terminal? The liquid crystal display was showing figures that I didn't know the meaning of.
何です？
GPS。まあ簡単に言えば今いる場所の座標を表示してくれる機械かな。
I think we all know what a GPS is, so I don't need to go into tips for that, do I?
すごいじゃないですか。
使えればね。
ということは。
壊れた。
Heartbroken, I dropped my shoulders.
墜落のショックで行かれたんだろう。動くことは動くけどな。でたらめな座標ばっかり表示してるんだ。
So I have the feeling that we don't swap back and forth between people from this part on. I have a feeling we're just going to be in Kokoro's perspective. Which I have the feeling is the better perspective to start from. I have a feeling that some of my earlier choices could have put us on Satoru's position, on his route, but again, this is all just speculation. That's just my thoughts.
直したりとかは。
できるならとっくにやってるよ。ああ、結構高かったんだけどな、これ。
Yomogi let out a sigh. I sat back down in the chair. I wish he wouldn't thoughtlessly show me broken and useless things. The momentary hope I had caused my despair to return stronger than ever. My tongue sharpened with disappointment, I began to murmur sarcastically.
そんなもの持ってるんですか？
つい癖でね、いつも持ち歩いてたからな。
Yomogi looked at it with a bitter smile as I tilted my head. Let me guess it was his son's. What a world, old guy. A normal person wouldn't carry something around like that.
ま、場所については僕もあれこれ考えていたんだが。
Carrying around weird items that have to do with a relative. Name, name one better combo. That and Uchikoshi. I digress.
墜落する前までの状況を思い出してみたんだ。羽田を飛び立ってから墜落するまで2時間は経ってなかったと思う。
1時間から1時間半くらいですね。
飛行ルートから推測すればここは東北の山の中って可能性、青森、秋田、岩手、そんなところだろう。
That's not good. That's too vague.
空気が薄いから標高は高いと思う。救助が来るのはしばらく時間がかかるかもしれない。
After saying that, Yomugi smiled as to comfort me.
そう心配するな。小屋があるってことはここは人が来る場所ってことなんだ。
Hearing that, I mustered a thin smile in return. Of course, I wasn't reassured by what Yomugi said, as I thought the situation was pretty bad.
本当にここ日本なんでしょうか？
変なこと言うな。なんでそんな。
なんだか現実じゃないみたいで。
You know, I was about to say that too, but I thought it was odd of me to say that. Apparently, it's not as odd as I thought.
都会暮らしのお嬢さんじゃそう思うのも無理ないかもな。
Hearing his slight teasing tone angered me just a little. In that case, it was like I was totally helpless by myself, wasn't it?
ここがどこか
Oh, fuck.
知ってるよ。
Of course he does. What the fuck is this OST? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Yuni slowly got up from the bed. Though he seemed still partly asleep, he spoke with conviction as he rose.
赤倉岳って言うんだ。
Ah. I looked at Yuni's face, surprised. Yomogi was wearing a perplexed expression as well. Yuni's thin lips curled into a smile. His face without glasses was the most childish I'd ever seen it. Even so, with a distant look in his eyes, he laughed as if he was the one who understood everything. I was waiting for this. I wanted him to go, like, I was waiting for him to go fucking batshit insane. Evil, twisted grin. I thought his facial expression was strange somehow. My spine suddenly tingled. Yuni stood up unsteadily without answering. Walking uncertainly, he turned towards the entrance.
Yuni!
おい、どこへ？
ついておいでよ。
Yuni smiled and focused on us. Where is he looking?
教えてあげる。
Yuni opened the door. Strong wind and snow blew into the cabin. Yuni's figure disappeared into the white
おい、
landscape.
待て！
Yomogi went after him, with me following right behind. The snowstorm hits my cheeks with amazing force. Pain. More than the cold, what I felt was pain. I couldn't see in front of me, my eyes wouldn't open at all. I tried to yell, but my voice was erased by the wind. And then something pulled at my hand. I looked up and saw Yuni. His finger pointed to beside the cabin's entrance. I saw something with my freezing eyes. Mount Akakura Emergency Shelter Cabin. Oh, he can read signs. Okay. I'm calling bullshit. That wasn't just it. It wasn't just that. I am calling bullshit. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself.
大したからくりだったな。吹雪のせいで全く気づかなかった。おて。
へん。もう、ユニったらびっくりさせないでよ。
In the short time I had been outside, my body had become frozen through and through. It was impossible to keep the shivering out of my voice. Forgetting to wipe off all the snow that had clung to me, I rushed to the stove.
何が？
いいの。なんでもない。
Yuni squinted and followed me, his eyes seemed to swim.
ねえ、それよりメガネ。
Oh,
僕のメガネ。
that's why he wasn't looking anywhere in particular, because he can't see. I picked up the glasses from the table and returned them to him.
何の騒ぎ？
Mayuzumi had gotten up. Yomogi explained to her about figuring out where we were.
それなら脱出できるのね。
脱出。
場所が分かったんでしょ？下山できるじゃないの。
It certainly felt like what she had said was overly obvious.
いや、無理だ。
なんでよ。
分かったのは山の名前だけだ。僕はここに来たこともない。
Oh yeah, we're in the middle of Antarctica. I know where Antarctica is. I can escape. Ha ha!
下山ルートは分からない。
Mayuzumi pointed in Yuni's direction with her chin.
このガキがコンパス持ってるんでしょ？それを使えば。
It seems that the conversation between Yomogi and myself earlier had reached her ears alright. However, Yomogi shook his head and glared balefully at the
コ
doorway.
ンパスごときでどうにかなれば苦労しないさ。この吹雪の中を歩き回るのは自殺行為だ。おとなしく救助を待つのが得策だ。
Displeased, Mayuzumi let out a snort and again retreated to the top bunk. Continuing her nap, maybe. I kinda understand how she felt. We now know the name of the mountain we're on, but that didn't lead to any sort of solution at all. I continued to try to think of something else we could do. However, everything I thought of, Yomogi had already tried. It seemed there was no method to establish contact with the base of the mountain. Fortunately, the cabin's basement still had a decent stock of firewood remaining. If there is some fire remaining, then we're alright when it comes to water. We just have to melt some snow. It was an agreement. Stored there in a wall. Stored there as well. Where'd I get in a wall from? If we ration it with 4 people, we can endure for 4 days, said Yomogi in an attempt to keep my courage up. After all that, all we can do is wait patiently for the blizzard to stop and rescue team to arrive. Where have I heard that? Although this time we don't have any chicken tuna sandwiches.
ねえねえ、お腹空いたよ。
そうだな。飯にしよう。
手伝います。
手伝うことなんて何もないよ。
Laughing, he picked up the carpeted box in the corner of the room, following behind. I peeked into one of the 3 cardboard boxes that were there. Inside there were a number of little packages, each smaller than a fist. For freeze-dried emergency provisions, there was a stew, seasoned porridge, and rice. I took one into my hand and checked the expiration date. It seemed to be totally fine. It seemed freeze-dried food could be preserved for up to 10 years. I'm thankful for the wisdom of mankind. Besides those, we found some hardtack biscuits as well. Feeling slightly nostalgic, I'm eating the hardtack. It's disgusting, but I'll eat it anyways. I opened the packaging and put some of the hardtack into my mouth. There was no taste at all. The moisture inside my mouth was sucked away, drying it out completely. There were emergency rations, so I guess that was to be expected.
おいおい、貴重な食料なんだから、もっと大事にしてくれよ。
That's right, we only have 4 days worth of food.
ごめんなさい。
ああ、いいな、心。僕も食べたい。
ダメだ。これは没収。
チェケチ。
Yomogi placed the biscuits back into the cardboard box. Yomogi pulled out the aluminum pot from the box beside it. It seemed somewhat flimsy, but if we'd all be using it for the heating, if all we'd be using it for was heating things, then it was just fine.
それじゃあ、この鍋に雪を入れてきてくれ。
わかりました。
僕が行く。
Yumi snatched the pot from my hand.
もう、ユニ
Ignoring my cry, Yuni walked nimbly to the entrance. When he opened the door, another freezing gust blew in.
寒いぞ。
Mizumi complained from her bed. Inside the cabin, the wind swirled the snow it was carrying around. Carried by the wind, a newspaper flew out of a box and fluttered in the air. I picked it up without a second thought. And then one of the articles caught my eye. July 4th, Monday. 2011. What? Excuse me? That's not possible. Very funny. What the fuck? 3 decomposed male and female corpses found on Mount Akakura. Missing passengers from the HAL crash? My throat went dry. My heart was pounding like a hammer, it wouldn't calm down. It's strange. Something was strange, there was something wrong with this newspaper. Date? Yes, it was a date. Today's date is in Heisei 23, in other words, it should be January 11, 2011. However, this newspaper is dated July 4th, 2011. That shouldn't be, that's impossible. My breathing became pained. Hissing sounds came from my throat. It was like my body wasn't my own. The hand holding the newspaper was trembling. Even so, I frantically read the article. The Aomori Prefectural Police announced the recent discovery of the remains of 3 men and women on Aomori's Mount Akakura, believed to be the victims of Flight HAL 18, which claimed 27 lives last January. As they had undergone extensive decomposition over a period of 6 months, the identities of the bodies are unclear. They are assumed to be the last 3 unaccounted for among the missing passengers and crew members on HAL 18. The bodies were discovered 1 kilometer east of the Mount Akakura shelter cabin. It had been confirmed that the 3 bodies, which had sustained a large number of lacerations in an avalanche days after the crash, are those of the survivors. However, due to the bodies of the victims being discovered away from the route down the mountain, the Aomori Prefectural Police investigation to the day of their death will continue. According to the Aomori Weather Observation Department, an avalanche affecting Mount Akakura and its surrounding area occurred on January 17, 2011 around 6:53. Fuck. After analyzing the traces left at Mount Akakura shelter cabin, it concluded that those who had used it survived for 7 days after the crash. The horrific crash of Flight 18 with the discovery of their 3 passengers claimed 30 lives out of the 31 crew members and passengers aboard. What the fuck is going on here? I don't know. Fuck. 31 passengers, 30 deaths. Save was the sole survivor of the crash. Yasuda? Yuni-kun. Of course. Remember 11. What's happening? My voice grows hoarse. My entire body begins to tremble. It's weird. As I thought, this newspaper is weird. Someone was calling for me. The voice seemed far away. My shoulders trembled. I shook that off, but the trembling ran to my fingertips instead. The identity of the 3 discovered bodies. They are Yomogi Seiji-san 35, Maizumi Loom-san 23, Fuyukawa Kokoro-san 20. Everything turns black. From within the corner of my brain, my consciousness recedes to somewhere far, far away. Is this a dream? Yes, it's a dream. If it wasn't, we're going to die? As I thought that, an intense feel of anger boiled from within me. Why? This has to be some sort of mistake. I tried to blot it out, and then I gripped the newspaper more tightly and tore it in half. What the fuck? What the fuck? Heart body tranquilizers. Okay. Oh, it seems like we swapped now. And we are 6% complete. And it's been 3 hours. So, I think now is a good place to stop. My voice is dying. But thank you guys for watching the stream. And if you're watching past the stream, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed Remember 11 Part 1, please feel free to stick around for Part 2. I will be playing the entire game, and I'm very excited for it. Anyways, thanks guys.